Okay, we're going. Oh, you know, I don't know if I like it over here or if I should, a second, or if I should go over here. I think, it's gonna be easier if I'm over here because I can have something to support this against. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, jeez, oh my God. Oh, oh man, oh man. Okay. Okay. Um, I'm so fucking messy. Okay. Well, as I wait for more people to join us here, I am going to just kind of set this up. Okay. Okay. Here we go. So this is a live stream specifically talking about. So this is a live stream specifically talking about the new book that just came out about that was written by Robyn Crawford. It's called A Song for You, My Life with Whitney Houston. I'm not going to be talking about anything else for as long as this live stream lasts. So unless you have any interest in this topic or you want to ask questions about my thoughts regarding something specific in the book or just in general about this, then I'll talk about it. But if it's like something else, I'm not talking about it. I made a post like 2 days ago in the community tab on my YouTube page, and it seemed like a good number of you had interest in wanting to talk about it. So that's why I'm here to talk about it. But yeah, that's what we're doing today. Yeah. All right, I see Stefan is here. I was just kidding, LOL. Okay. Diamond DXENAXXL. Hey, this is not a real name. The Audible version is voiced by Robyn. Yeah, I did hear that the Audible version was voiced by Robyn. I was debating actually on getting the Audible version, but part of me was just like, no, I need to read it. Because sometimes when Robyn, I've watched a lot of the interviews that she's done, and she has like a very like calming aura about her, and she has this and she talks very like even keeled, but she also kind of talks a bit slow. Not that that's a bad thing, but I was just like, if she's gonna be reading at that pace, because I like to read a little bit faster, so that's why. But I think I'm gonna get the Audible version maybe a bit like soon. But yeah, I thought, well, I thought I would open this up with, I guess, someone had, when I made the post asking if anyone would be interested in me like talking about it. The reason why I asked was because someone DM'd me on Twitter asking if I could do like a book review or live stream discussion of it. And I originally wasn't planning on doing it. And when I made the post that this is something that I was going to, if this was something you guys would be interested in, and that I originally wasn't interested in doing it, someone, Lunga Zula, commented and said, most deaf, but I'd also like to know why weren't you keen on reviewing it? So I guess I could start this by answering that question on why I wasn't keen on reviewing it. And the reason why I really wasn't keen on reviewing this in the first place, it was, I feel like for a lot of reasons, but I would say one of them being that I saw the initial kind of reaction when the news, not even the news that the book was coming out, but like the initial reaction from that People magazine article that came out like about 2 weeks ago now. That was like the confirmation, and then also like the little excerpts. Just reading the reaction from other people has been really interesting regarding this book, because you have some people that are supportive, but then you also have other people, and a lot of them are actually diehard fans of Whitney that are just like, no, like they're very angry about it. And in some of the people's anger, there's, in my opinion, I felt like there's some like undertones of homophobia underneath, and I didn't want to attract that kind of energy and bring that kind of energy onto my channel. So that was like first and foremost. I just like I didn't want to deal with any homophobic people. So that's really why I didn't really want to talk about it. Um and two, because I think on Twitter I've like, God, I don't even, I'm like so slow right now because I'm trying to figure out how to articulate this. A lot of the people that I follow on Twitter now, I don't know how this like evolved, but I do follow quite a number of Whitney fans. I guess you would say like I have Whitney mutuals on Twitter. And I think by having a lot of Whitney mutuals on Twitter, it's kind of made me like very hyper aware of like the opinions I have about Whitney. I think like, okay, to contrast, when I did my live stream review of the Whitney documentary that came out last year now, I did a live stream discussion of it. Like I did a review of the movie and then I did a live stream discussion of it. But when I did that live stream discussion, I really wasn't like that deeply rooted or connected with too many other Whitney fans. And I think that was actually beneficial for me because I felt more like uninhibited by the opinions I had about Whitney. Not that they were bad opinions or like judgmental opinions. I just felt very like uninhibited. Like I wasn't really in the know of like what other Whitney fans were thinking. So it made me feel like I had more freedom to say what I wanted to say. But since then, now I feel like a little bit more connected within the fan community. And because of that, I'm it's kind of made me be a little bit more like reserved in my opinion, if that makes sense. Because, you know, stan like being a fan is fun, but sometimes there's those stans that really just suck the fun out of being a fan of someone. And um yeah, I would just leave it at that. But so that's two. And three, when I did my Whitney movie live stream discussion, I didn't realize that it had ended up on I'm sure if you guys are like diehard Whitney fans, you know about this website. It's called Classic Whitney. Someone had posted that on Classic Whitney, and not that that's a bad thing. I'm not upset about that. That's really cool. But like I think that idea of my live stream discussion being posted in that forum like also kind of freaked me out because I was just like, "Oh my God, like other Whitney fans are going to watch this," and they did, and they heard it, and then they were like, commenting on thoughts that I had to say. And I know it's like a weird thing to be like, well, duh, you're putting this on the internet. But again, I think it's just like me being very like hyper aware of the fact that I'm talking about someone who a lot of people hold near and dear to their hearts. And so that's like already like, ooh, be careful. But this is a very sensitive topic. It's a very sensitive issue, and a lot of people have very polarizing thoughts. And I think I'm just naturally a person that likes to, believe it or not, when it comes to like super controversial things, I just like to kind of only share it with a handful of people. But I have been wanting to talk about this. I've been talking about this with one of my Whitney friends. I would say my first Whitney friend, Jen. If you're not watching this, I don't know if you are, but shout out to Jen. Her and I have been like texting back and forth quite a bit over these past couple days. But yeah, I think it's worth discussing. Case in point, I'm saying all that to say I was just scared to voice my opinion on it. And my general opinion on this book is that I'm so here for Robyn coming out and telling her story. That was a long-winded way of getting to that. But yeah, I'm so here for Robyn finally coming out and telling her story. Okay, I'm gonna read some of the comments now because I've been like um talking. But if you guys have any specific topics or questions that you want me to talk about regarding this book, you can just, comment here, and then we could really begin to discuss. Um, all right. This is not a real name. I love that. Lungani, don't know it's on Amazon. I think I really don't know if the audiobook is available on iTunes yet. This is not a real name. Also says haters of the book are definitely homophobic. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would I would agree. Gemini. Oh, Gemini, you do not have to you guys do not have to donate anything. But thank you for that. Haven't made a stream in so long. We stand a Whitney and Robyn discussion. I know I haven't been live streaming consistently for quite a while. I live streamed last week and then the week before that, but it's because I've just been like super, super busy. And yeah. Lungani X. At first, I was skeptical because people were going to use the homophobia killed Whitney, which is not true. Or if Whitney was allowed to be with Robyn, she'd still be here. YB to kid underscore X. How much did I miss? Hi, Steffi. You didn't really miss much. It was just me rambling. Lungani X. YB not much. Jay, I was surprised at the mixed reaction the book has been getting. I like Robyn and I love the book. Okay, so I guess I'll ask you guys who are here in the stream. Have you read this book yet? Have you finished it? Are you reading it right now? I think that's a good place to start. Also, let me know, like, do you want me to go into specifics and say what happens in the book? Or do you mind if I spoil certain things? Or are you guys like, no spoilers whatsoever? Because there are some things that do, like, there's a lot of things that happen in this book that I don't think have really been like talked about yet in the media. So yeah, let me know if you guys mind spoilers or anything. Because if you do, then I'll try and avoid spoilers. Marie Antoinette's cake. I'm like 10 minutes late. Sorry. Hi, Steffi. Happy Sunday. Let me see here. Lungani X, I've not read it yet. Mrs. Artist G, not yet. Lungani X, LOL, it's fine. You can spoil it. This is not a real name. Says, do you still believe Whitney and Robyn messed around after the early '80s, despite what Robyn says? Um, I okay, so the timeline of this book is a bit like it has me. I have questions because Robyn has gone around in interviews saying that their relationship, like the physical intimacy of it, stopped in 1982. Like she has made a point of saying that in pretty much every single interview I've read and watched. Um, in the book, she says it too. But I do like the only reason really for me why not the only reason. I have a couple reasons why I'm not quite sure if I necessarily buy into that is one thinking from like a logical and an emotional point of view. Um she Whitney breaks up with Robyn. If you guys don't know, she breaks up with Robyn by giving her the Bible, by giving her this Bible and saying that she believes that the physical part of their relationship can't continue anymore because when her career is going to start taking off, she knows that the industry and people are going to use that against them and it's going to make their journey more difficult. Um, and then she also believed that, and she also said that she wanted, to get married and have kids. And she believed that, God, I should have like freaking bookmarked this. Um, should I read? And oh God, I don't want this to be like me reading you guys the book. But, and then she also says like, she believes that by continuing that kind of lifestyle, they could go to hell for it. And Robyn says okay, and she agrees to obviously continue that friendship without the physical relationship. So then after that whole incident, they move into they get an apartment together. And then I don't know how long they stay in that apartment, I forget. But then from there, they move to like a bigger apartment. And then I think from there, they move in together into the house. I'm not quite sure. Also, I just want to put like a disclaimer if you guys are like, how are you not sure? You just read the book. I read this book on Tuesday, the day it came out, in one day. So that's why it felt like an emotional blur. So I'm kind of forgetting like the minute details of it. But they essentially lived together in three different like housing situations for like many years following this breakup of being in a 2 year like really it was a 2 year physical emotional romantic relationship. um I would think that it would kind of be difficult for two people who were that intimate on all of those levels to just suddenly stop still together. Like I don't know if I necessarily buy into that. Because I'm just thinking like even Lena Waithe asked Robyn in her interview, like, really? Like I just feel like the emotional entanglement of that living situation would complicate, your relationship and complicate emotions. Like it's just a lot. And Robyn, I think in the interview was just like, it's just emotions. Like I was just like, really? So I don't necessarily know. So that's one reason why I'm kind of like, really? And then another reason why too, and this is kind of like the big one for me, is why I'm kind of like, I don't know if I necessarily buy into that, is because so many people and so many of these stories of like, oh yeah, Robyn and Whitney, they're coming from people who knew them after 1982. Like they're not coming from people. I mean, yeah, you hear like these like some stories coming from people who like knew them before, but you also hear stories from other people who even just like observing them or kind of knew them socially have, could tell that they were in like a relationship, and they knew them after 1982. um it could be one of those things where it's like, when you have two people who it's very clear that there's chemistry between them, or you have two people who it's very clear that they have feelings for one another, but they like want to keep denying it. It could be that, or it also could be just like, the energy between Robyn and Whitney was just so noticeable and palpable that like it was just very evident that there was something there. I really don't know, but like I don't know. I just think it's I don't know. What do you guys think? I don't want to say that like Robyn's lying, but I also in general do kind of feel that in the interviews that she's given, and even in this book, I get this sense that as open and as candid as Robyn is being with us, there is still quite a bit that she's holding back, because I still feel like she's protecting Whitney. Like I don't think every little single detail that she knows about Whitney, and that like, every conversation, every moment that they shared, like it's not in this book. Like it's not. I feel like there's a lot that she's leaving out, and that's okay. I totally respect that, but I think it's because she's protecting her, and I feel in that protection she's I don't know. I don't know. I'm just gonna stop there. So what do you guys think? Wow, I went on for a while there. I'm gonna read some comments again. Um, da, da. Let's see here. YB to Kid, I have it on hold at the library. Hashtag spoilers, please. Will and J&M, spoil it. I'm too lazy to read it. Uh, Jay, haha, I finished the book in a day. Okay, Jay, you and I, you and I are the same. I also frequent Classic Whitney and knew there would be spoilers on there. Yeah, there's been people on Twitter too that I think they're reading the book on their phone, who are like screenshotting like so many excerpts, and then they're like posting it in a thread. So I mean, there's stuff that's out there. Buzzworthy TV can't wait to get into this book. Marie Antoinette's Cake, please do spoil it. I haven't read it yet. Spill the tea. Um, Lugani X is not a real name. I don't think they did. Knowing how religious Whitney was, she wouldn't cheat on Bobby. That's how devoted she was to her marriage to Bobby. Connie, hi there. Gemini, I hate that some people are going against the book and saying that Robyn shouldn't be allowed to tell Whitney's story. Whitney is gone, her daughter is gone, and it's been a rumor. What's the big deal? Yeah, I mean, I understand people's reservations in terms of them using the argument that Whitney isn't here to tell her story or to defend or qualify the story. Like that I understand, but at the same time it's like, it's Robyn's story too. And I think back when like when I remember I was watching Braxton Family Values, and when there was like a season there where Tony was in the process of writing her own memoir, and she was saying how sometimes, it's difficult to tell your own story when your story involves other people too. And but at the same time, in order to tell your story, the best thing you can do essentially is to just tell it from your perspective, and to try and be as honest as you can be coming from your own perspective. And I feel like that's what Robyn was doing. I really don't think, like, again, from watching all the interviews she's done, reading all the interviews she's done, reading this book, I really feel like she's not like disparaging Whitney at all. She talks with so much like grace and reverence for Whitney. I don't think this is I don't know. I really don't think she's doing this like out of disrespect or malintent whatsoever. Um let's see here. Da, da, da. This is not a real name. Lugani, there was a decade between the end of Robyn's physical relationship and Bobby Brown. Why be the kid underscore? When you love someone so deeply like that, it's really hard to stop the physical attraction also. Yes, I agree with that. Ngani X, do you think Whitney was bisexual or because she has not been linked to any other female other than Robyn? I I feel like I don't even well, Robyn in interviews and in this book said that Whitney didn't really buy into like this idea of like labels. Um I feel like bisexual isn't even like really like accurate if we were to quote unquote label her. Um I mean, she's definitely sexually fluid. I think if anything, she is, if we were to label her, um she would maybe be more accurately categorized as like pan. And I think Robyn did a interview with someone from, I think it was Essence magazine. She did like a discussion with herself and like another lady from the magazine, and it was like in front of like an audience. I don't know if you guys have caught that. It was only posted on YouTube like a day or so ago, but in that she said that even though she personally doesn't abide by labels, she would consider herself to be pansexual. And pansexual is when you're more so attracted to someone's like soul and personality versus like your attraction coming from being your attraction being based on like specific genders, if that makes sense. And I feel like that's kind of accurate for Whitney as well, because as far as we know, we don't know of any other female relationship she had. Um, but yeah, that's I feel like that's a bit more accurate. Also, if you guys didn't know too, in the book, Robyn, she's not like a full on um like lesbian. She's actually been her first relationship was with a guy. Um, Let me see if I can get his name here. This is like truly like a book club right now. Yeah, I really should have like thumbed noted here before I did this. Um, well, yeah, I think it's gonna kind of be hard for me to find very specific. Oh wait, was it this? No. Well, anywho, she did her first, I think, relationship was with a guy. And it was, it was like and it wasn't like a fling either. Like it was a relationship with a young man. And then I think the next relationship she had was with Whitney. And there's actually there's a funny little story after her and Whitney moved in together, and this is at the point when the physical relationship has stopped. Whitney kind of has this thing with Jermaine for, I don't even know how long this lasts, but she has this thing with Jermaine, and Robyn kind of takes that period of time like really difficult. Like like Robyn was in her feelings during that period of time, and then after that stops, Whitney like continues like working and all of that. And they're living together, by the way. Robyn and Whitney are living together during this time. And Robyn is working at the airport. And one day at the airport, like she meets a pilot, and the pilot asks her for her number. And the pilot's a guy. And then they like go on this date. And then she brings the date back to their apartment. And when her and the pilot guy are like chatting, she calls out to Whitney to like come to the living room to meet the guy. And Whitney comes out, and she, I guess, is like in a really like grouchy mood, and she's super short with the guy, and then she leaves, and then the pilot's like, why is your roommate so mean? But I just thought that was like a funny side story. I don't know why I said that. Oh, I said that to show that she, both Whitney and Robyn mingled with both genders. So yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Lungani X, sorry, I didn't finish your thought, because even when she divorced Bobby, she was linked to men, and around that time being homosexual wasn't as taboo as in the 80s. YB to kid underscore, I think Robyn just still, oops, wants to protect Whitney and also keep something for herself. I agree with that. I still believe that there's more that she will never tell because of her love for Whitney. Yeah, I agree. Um, Will Willie J&M, I'm curious as to what Sissy did to break up the relationship. You know, she doesn't detail specifically what Sissy did to break up the relationship in the book. Will Underwood, love Whitney forever. X Lungani X, I saw that thread about Bobby abusing Whitney. Yeah, there's like, God, it like be it. Not to say like it starts to sound so repetitive, but it just, there's so many instances where she details different times that he was so abusive to her. Like, I just never, like, I don't want to listen to Bobby Brown music right now. Like, he's silenced in my car. um let's see here. YB to kid underscore, can you sort of give a synopsis of the chapters that stood out to you? You know, I will try and do my best, but I would highly recommend, there's someone here on YouTube that is doing like kind of 10-minute review synopsis of like a chapter or two each. I think her YouTube name is content. Look her up. Like, literally, if you just search like a song for you, Whitney Houston book review, like, she should be there. And like, her video always begins with like that face emoji thing. Watch her video. She hasn't, I think she's only on like chapter 4 or 5 right now, but if any of you guys like want like a more in-depth like review of each chapter, I think that'd be a good place for you guys to watch. But let's see here. Well, if you guys are interested in reading the book, I could give you guys some fast numbers. So there's 321 pages in the book. Oh wait, no. 319 pages in the book, and there is 24 chapters and an introduction and an epilogue. So and there's also some pictures too. Let's see. Okay. Gosh. Ooh, man, like Tuesday was such an emotional blur, and then if you got like more personal news on Wednesday and Thursday, like I was like super sick. So I'm kind of still recovering from a cold, like a really, not even like a cold, like it was like a stomach virus. I literally woke up in the middle of the night on Wednesday and threw up. So the past couple of days have been a bit of a blur, but let's see. I mean, I liked those first initial chapters, like chapters 1 through 7. I really enjoyed. That's like a third of the book. But I really enjoyed that book. I really enjoyed those chapters because I feel like in like learning about Whitney and watching all these different documentaries, specials, like they speed through her childhood and teen years. And you don't really get a sense of like who she was as a person or what her life was like during that period of time. But Robyn gave so much and filled in the gaps of during that period of her life. So it was like really interesting to finally get more like specific stories about what she was doing in her life during that time. So I really enjoyed that. I guess, I mean, chapter 2 was interesting specifically. It's called Like an Angel because that's the first time Robyn goes to see Whitney perform at the church, because Whitney specifically asked Robyn, "Can you come? Would you like to come watch me perform at the church? Because I can really sing." So I liked that story because that was the first time Robyn got to witness her friends sing like that in a church setting. And there's also, okay, so when I was reading this book, I only cried once, and it's because of a bookend that happened. I don't know if this is like intentional on Robyn's part, but I love me a bookend. And towards the end of the book, when Robyn goes to Whitney's funeral, I guess certain pews were taped, reserved for the family, and there was no space to sit anymore. So Robyn kind of like she removed like a little piece of tape so she could sit with her, and like I think her wife went with her or something. And I don't know if like she specifically sat in the seventh pew, like a little off center, but someone tried making her move. And Robyn was like, no, like I'm gonna sit here. And it felt like it was because she wanted to specifically sit in that pew in that specific area, because in chapter 2, when she goes to watch Whitney perform at the church, she specifically sits in the seventh pew a little bit off center because she didn't want to be too close to the front but too far to the back so that, she couldn't be seen. But she wanted to be specifically there so that Whitney could see her. And just like that bookend of like Robyn as a young person going to watch Whitney perform at the church for the first time, and then like cut like 30 something years into the future, and she's going to that friend's funeral, and she is in the same church sitting in the same pew, like that brought me to like, whoa, Lord, like I cried when I got to that part. So chapter 2 set us up for a really great bookend towards the end of the book. And chapter 3 was like, we love chapter 3. It's called Love Equals Love, and that's essentially like the falling in love part of this book. It details like that, not even just the summer, but also kind of, I would say more or less like the first like year and a half of that relationship. And it's very like, it's like the young love portion of the relationship. And it was like really nice to read that at least there was a period in Whitney's life where she experienced like happiness and like and love in its like purest form, because it was young love. And not, when I'm saying like young love, I'm not saying it to be like dismissive or anything, but it was just like, it was cute. Like, I mean, it's like any kind of like coming of age book you read, or a coming of age movie or show, like when it gets to that point in the story when the two young characters are falling in love with each other, and it's like, oh, this is cute. Like, it was like that. Like, that's essentially what chapter 3 is. And you like, I didn't know, like, they loved going to the beach together, like, all the freaking time. And I was like, when they were talking about how like the beach was kind of their place, it made me think of the movie Beaches. And later in the book, they go to watch Beaches together, and I was just like, fuck. I like tweeted out like, oh my god, not fucking Beaches. And if you guys like haven't seen that movie, one of the characters in that movie, her last name is Whitney, and there's something that happens to that character in the movie. And yeah, Robyn and Whitney kind of had like a whoo reaction when they watched what happened to that character in the movie, like, because it's like Whitney. So I was just like, damn. Let's see here. Chapter 4 was interesting. I was really trying to like skim this book before doing this, but that's as far as I got to chapter 4. Chapter 4, it's called Separation Anxiety, and that's when so Robyn was in college, and Whitney was, I think, about ready to start her senior year of high school. So Robyn goes back to college, and Whitney stays in the town in high school, and it kind of just talks about how they were like really missing each other, and they were always like on the phone with one another. And like, I guess during that time, whenever they would get off the phone, Whitney would always like end their conversation with something along the lines of, I wish you were here, like, things like that. And then Robyn leaves college like short of a semester to go, be with Whitney. Not even just to be with Whitney, but to support Whitney's career, because that's how much she believes in Whitney. Girl, when I read that, I mean, like, I remember hearing that Robyn had left college to support Whitney, but like reading it, like in Robyn's words in this book, I was like, girl, if you were my child and you were just one semester short from graduating, there would be no way in freaking hell you would be leaving that school, girl. So, that's kind of what separation anxiety was about. Chapter 5, I believe, is when she gives her the Bible. And it's also when they move into their first apartment together. Let's see here. Chapter 6, Nobody Loves Me Like You Do. That details, I think, the germane part of it all. Let me see. I don't wanna like give us like of every single chapter because there's 24 here. So that's kind of like the first like bit of the book is the beginning of the relationship. And then like chapters 7 through 16 is like the career of it all. And yeah, all of the stuff that was happening in Whitney's career. Um let's see here. Chapter 17, learning it's called four-letter word, and it was so funny. Like when I saw four-letter word, I was like playing hangman with myself. I was like, four-letter word, dead, love, and I was like, no, it's AIDS. So yeah, Robyn's brother and Robyn's mom were actually diagnosed with AIDS, and I didn't know that. And it kind of adds some background context. I'm not quite sure if this may have been the sole reason. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a reason, but I do remember watching a snippet of Whitney speaking at an AIDS event. And I do wonder if part of the reason why maybe she agreed to do that was because she had a personal connection through Robyn. And not even just because like, she did it because of Robyn, but like Whitney, like again, when they were young, they were at each other's houses like all the time. Like Whitney knew Robyn's family, and yeah, so she knows these people. So there was that there was that personal connection there. Learning about like so in chapter 17, Robyn kind of details that period of time when I believe that's in chapter 17. Robyn details that period of time when her brother was diagnosed with AIDS and her mother was diagnosed with AIDS. And yeah, it was really sad. I learned you learn a lot about, as much as you learn about like Robyn and Whitney, you also learn about Robyn too. And I think in learning about who Robyn was as a person, it makes that friendship and relationship that she has to Whitney make more sense. So yeah. I would say like the last couple chapters too, like God, chapter like 22 through 24 is like rough because like, this is when Robyn like exits, but also like she's trying to like find her own way, right? Without like, 'cause her life was so like deeply rooted in Whitney for like the longest time. And that's kind of like that was like kind of the thing like I felt so bad for. Like I mean like, Robyn willingly did this. She left school for Whitney. Her whole entire life and career was built around Whitney to support Whitney. She lived with Whitney. But, when she like exits I think she calls it like Whitney world, that transition is very like, it's hard for her because so all these different components of her life were around this person. And I really like I felt for her, man. I felt the struggle. There's this particular part in the book where she's in California and she had enough money saved up, but she like doesn't know what to do for work. And I think she gets this call, and they're offering her a position to potentially work at, I don't know if it's Arista. I think it must have been Arista. And this is after Clive Davis has left and L.A. Reid is now like the head of Arista. And she gets this call like, we can offer you a job as like a I don't know if it's like a record exec, but it was like a high position job. And Robin was like, oh, okay, sure. And I think she like interviews for it, and then they tell her, you got the job. And Robin's like, okay, great. And so in her getting the job, that meant she had to move from California back to the East Coast. So she like drove cross country with her sister, who, by the way, at this time, her sister was diagnosed with a mental illness. I forget, gosh, I'm sorry. I forget what mental illness she was diagnosed with, but she takes her sister, drives across country, and she stays at a friend's house because she's just waiting for a follow-up call from the record label to like give her more details about the job. So she's waiting and she's waiting and she's waiting and she doesn't get the call. And then they're like, how? She's like, what's going on? And I think she like calls them, or they finally call her, and she's like, hey, I was like waiting for your call. Like, is this still happening? And then LA Reid is like, sorry, Robin, we can't offer you the job anymore. And then Robin's like, well, can you tell me why? And then LA Reid was just like very vague, and he was like, we can't. And that was it. And I was like, what? And then I think like a couple months later, or maybe like a year or so later, I don't know, she goes to this event and LA Reid is there. And then she asks LA Reid, why didn't I get the job? And then LA Reid is like, because Whitney, like, there would have been like some conflict of interest there. And when she got the job, like they told her, you're not going to be working with Whitney. And she was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. So essentially she got like offered a job, and then they rescinded the job because Whitney told the label like she didn't feel comfortable with Robyn working at Arista. It was just like there were so many other instances too where like, not to say that like Whitney's a bitch or anything, but like Whitney was like, I don't know, man, she was kind of selfish. There's another like, okay, a lot of people have said like, how come like Robyn never dated anybody when she was with, while she was working for Whitney? And like she more or less answers that because I guess there was a tour. Ooh, let me see if I could find that. I think it's chapter 12. Chapter 12. Page 155. Chapter 12, they're on tour. I think this is 1987 for the Moment of Truth World Tour. And oh yes, oh my god, so much drama happens here. Okay, so they're on tour, and one of the dancers asks Robyn like, hey, do you want to like hang out and go see London? And Robyn's like, sure, I'll go out with you, because like they're not busy. It was kind of like a rest day. So she goes out with one of the dancers, and I think they kiss or something, but that's like the only thing that happens. And then they come back, and then when she comes back, something had happened with Whitney. I'm not quite sure, but Sissy gets mad at Robyn for leaving Whitney by herself, and she gets so mad at her to the point where she like slaps Robyn across the face. And then after that, after like I'm literally looking at it, Sissy says, you all right, Robyn? Sissy asks, breaking the thick silence. Robyn says, yeah, I got a few scratches, but I'm fine. And then later that night, Robyn learns that essentially Whitney, okay, I'm gonna read from the book, okay? The book says, that evening I would find out that Nippy had been feeling weak and alone. And when I told her about my day, she asks, did you sleep with her? Don't lie to me. I told her we kissed. We didn't take off our clothes. Then out of nowhere, Whitney slapped me. My second slap of the day for those keeping count, but at least this one was followed by a hug and an apology. So like, that's one instance. And there's like another instance, and I think it's regarding the same dancer. Oh wait, oh no, yeah, the story continues. Okay, so the dancer's name was Joy, by the way. Okay, so Robyn says, I thought that the issue with Joy had been resolved until we came home for a break in July, and Whitney told me she was going to fire her. So it's like you have these instances where Robyn is trying to more or less like, have her own life outside of Whitney, trying to like like in the example I said earlier, where she moved cross country to potentially get this job, or like even when she was still working with Whitney, trying to like have her own like romantic relationship with another person. Whitney would like very like possessive and jealous. So you're just like, what is she supposed to do? So yeah, there's more to that story. I don't know if you guys want me to continue, but yeah. Ugh. Okay, I'm gonna refer more now to the comments here because I haven't looked at this in a while. I hope, let me know if I'm doing okay, because I feel like I don't know if this is like very conducive discussion here. Um, uh, Alpha Charm. I think Robyn is not telling us all the details. I think she kept it cute and tied a bow on it. Yeah, I would agree. This is not a real name. I don't think Robyn is a liar in the bad sense of the word, but I agree she's still protecting Whitney. Alpha Charm, even if Whitney was here, she'll be in denial. Yeah, I I agree too. Um I feel like because I think Whitney's just a really, really complicated person. I think she's a really, really guarded person. I don't think, like, even if it's like, well, it's 2019, people are coming out, I really don't think, like, she would. I think there's still, like, she would never. Like, I don't imagine her in any reality doing that unless, like, the world, like, right when she entered from the get-go was, like, completely, completely different. Um, Primrose Everdeen. I remember watching an interview. Oh, wait. Hey, you watch my American Horror Story videos. I remember I shouted your comment out in my last video. You said, I remember watching an interview where Bobby Brown was kind of explaining the situation. He was very harsh and disrespectful towards Robyn. She is such a calm spirit and she's not malevolent. Yes, I agree. And that's, funny that you bring up Bobby because I, that's another reason why I'm like happy that Robyn is finally like taking like authority over her story, over her narrative, because so many of these documentaries have talked about her. And then especially in that Bobby Brown BET movie that took place over 2 days, that was watched by so many people. The way he depicted Robyn, it was like an insult. She was just like kind of leering in the background of all of these scenes. Like that's pretty much how, and I get it, that's a story from his point of view, his perspective, but I was just like, wow, like to diminish someone to just a lure like that. Like it was just like, wow, that's so ugh. But YB to kid underscore. My aunt is pissed at Robyn, so I asked her if Robyn hadn't put anything sexual in the book, would it have been okay to write it? There was silence. There's a lot of underlying homophobia people carry. Yeah, I agree. Lungani X. I think she was attracted to Robyn regardless of her gender. Yeah, I think that's fair. I really think it was more so like a soul to soul personality kind of thing. Jay, I think the people who are against the book are under the impression that the book is all about their romantic relationship. Yeah, it really isn't all about their romantic relationship. Like any details of like any sort of like romantic like physicality, like it that only really takes place in the first couple chapters. That's it. Um Marie Antoinette's cake. Does Robyn speak about how Whitney's use of drugs affected them and their relationship? Did she try to get Whitney help? Yes, she did. She talks a lot. Like she goes early on in the book. She talks about the drugs. That was something that was introduced to Whitney before she became like Whitney Houston. She tells this crazy story about how one time like her and Whitney went on a drug run together and they went to like a very suspect area in Harlem, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. But yeah, she does talk about the drugs. Like at one point when in their relationship, and this was the interesting part too. So early on in their relationship, like they're like falling in love, but there's also like drug use involved in that, and not in the sense like they need to do drugs in order to like get physically intimate with one another. Not that. That was just something that was introduced to a young Whitney and something that they partook in together. And there was a pattern that was developing with Robyn where she would like go out with Whitney and stay out late and like not come home, not come home, or she would like come home like the next day super, super late. And like her mom could tell that she was like on something. So, Robyn, so when she tells that story, she kind of like uses that as a setup to show how the way that she was reared as a child was different to the way that Whitney was reared as a child. So, let me see here. I don't think I can find that particular point in the book, but there's this one instance where she comes home super, super late, and then Robyn's mom is like, Robyn, can you come to the living room? I want to talk to you. And then Robyn's mom straight up asks Robyn, like, are you guys doing drugs? And then Robyn, you know, she doesn't want to lie to her mom, so then she confesses and says like, yeah, Whitney and I are doing drugs. We do this and this. And then Robyn's mom is like, give me the phone. I'm gonna call Whitney's mom right now. So then Robyn's mom calls Whitney's mom, and they're like on the phone together, and she's like, you know, I'm not saying, do you know what our kids are doing together? Like, and Robyn again is saying that she could only hear what her mom is hearing. She can't hear what Sissy's saying on the other end. But Robyn's mom asks Sissy, do you know what our kids are doing together? And then she says, I'm not saying that your daughter is influencing my daughter, because I taught my children how to like think for themselves. But there is a pattern here where suddenly after my daughter is hanging out with your daughter, she's doing XYZ. And then she gets off the phone and she deals with Robyn, and she Robyn, after like they get off the phone, she goes to see Whitney, and Robyn is telling Whitney like, oh my god, my mom like really laid it in on me and da 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 da. And then she notices that like Whitney hasn't really said anything, and then she's like, well, how did your mom react? And then Whitney was just like, yeah, my mom and I talked about it. And she was just like very nonchalant about it. And then after that, Robyn goes home and she's greeted by like these drug counselors that her mom like hired to come to the house, and they're like asking Robyn, okay, so like how many times do you use a day? Do you know what the effects of these drugs are? And Robyn's still kind of like in denial. And then when she leaves after that. She goes out and parties with Whitney, and then she comes home, but then the locks are changed and she's like locked out of the house. And she calls her mom and apologizes to her and says like, you know, I know how I've been acting is like wrong, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to try and get my act together and clean up before I come home. And she's like homeless for like 3 weeks. And then like, you know, eventually she like makes her way home and like apologizes and says, okay, I'm never gonna like do it again. She does, but like the point in that story though is that Robyn's mom was dealing with the fact that her child was using in a very, very different way from Whitney's mom. And so there's that difference. And then when they would go on tour, like the first tour, Robyn said that there was so much drugs around. They called it the greatest drug tour. And like, you know, Whitney's brothers were essentially the ones who would like go out and get the drugs. And Robyn would participate in that drug use. But then after a while, because she was essentially Whitney's right-hand person and she was the one dealing with a lot of Whitney's like business dealings, like talking to so and so and so and so and making sure such and such happened, like she realized like she had to be like on all the time in order to like do her best. So she kind of like developed like a healthier way of living. Like she started to exercise more and like not do drugs and like not stay out late and like just stay in and do all of those different things. God, I'm forgetting like the original question here, but essentially, as you kind of like see this evolution of as like Robyn is kind of like developing these more healthier ways of coping with the stresses of life. Meanwhile, because Whitney's like stars on the rise and people really want to cater to all her needs, she's like falling deeper and deeper into this like drug addiction. But there are instances though when Robyn, you know, they had this saying, where when they were young, they would say, like, you know, once where we're going, these drugs can't come with us. Like, we have to cut it out once we get to where we're going. But then Robyn has this very poignant line where she says, "The problem was we were already there, and the drugs were there too." So it was kind of like they kept making these promises, like, okay, once we make it, we're gonna stop. But they never. But the problem is, like, Whitney never really stopped, and Robyn actually did try, like, different times to talk to Whitney's mom and say, you know, I think Whitney likes these drugs a little bit too much. She went with Whitney's dad to look at, like, a different rehab facility or something for Whitney, but yeah, just I don't know. It's tough when you're dealing with someone with an addiction who doesn't necessarily want to be helped. So yeah. Okay. Primrose Everdeen. I love how she speaks about Whitney in such a graceful way. I think she just wants their story to be told correctly. I think Whitney was just curious. Jay, I find this misconception frustrating. Like, can they read the book or actually just really listen to what Robyn has to say? Connie, it's been known for years that Robyn was with Whitney. This is Robyn's story to tell, and it looks like she has told it. I want to read it. Mr. Osmani Youssef, hi, just joined. This is not a real name. I wonder if Robyn wasn't just trying to make Whitney jealous with the pilot. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I don't know. There's some instances here where it's like you girls are playing games with each other. Mr. Osmani Youssef, what are your thoughts on Robyn's more public attitude now? Do you feel it's good intentioned or exploitative? I genuinely feel like this is, like, well intentioned. I don't think she's trying to exploit Whitney. And here's the thing too. It's like, if Robyn really wanted to cash in, there were so many instances where she could have told this story. She could have told this story right when she left in the early 2000s. She could have told it right there because Whitney was still alive. And this is when, like, the height of, like, media fixture on Whitney was, like, glaring. She could have told it there. She could have told it when Whitney died, just like everybody else had a book, had a movie or whatnot. Robyn could have told it there. And she could have also participated in the different documentaries because I remember Kevin McDonald, in an interview I heard, he said that he met with Robyn because there was a point where Robyn was interested, but then ultimately she backed out. So there were many instances where she could have, quote unquote, like, told her story or cashed in. And I think in her, and I respect her for, like, waiting this long to say it. Because so many, again, like, so many of these projects have really, like, sullied her name. Nick Gers, hi. Lungani X, I think the lowest point of Whitney's life is when her father sued her. That was her breaking point. Did Robyn touch on that? No, she did not touch on that. Lungani X, from the interviews I've seen of Robyn, Whitney really knew how great she was. Yeah, that's what I really love too about this book is I feel like sometimes in these different, like, documentaries and biopics, it's like Whitney is kind of, like, I don't know, she just kind of seems like an aimless person. Like, she knows that she has a gift, but, like, she's driven by other people. It's like, well, Clive Davis really guided her, or it's like Sissy really guided her. But what I love about this book is, like, you get the sense that Whitney really, really wanted this too, and she was making the steps in order to get to where she wanted to get. Like, she had a very clear vision of what she wanted to do, and she did it. And that's what I really liked about this book too. Is I felt like it kind of gave Whitney back some agency that she wasn't getting in all of these different tellings of her life. Alpha Charm, oh, I feel like crying. YB_the_kid_, wow, beautiful. Alpha Charm, I hope they make a movie about this. Marie Antoinette's Cake, I loved Beaches. Bette Midler was great in that movie. Prince of ASMR, I love when you review Whitney. Your Whitney Houston documentary review is still one of my favorites. Can't wait to read it. Thanks. Thank you for that. Stefan, Beaches is so sad. It traumatized my sister when she first saw it, and Wind Beneath My Wings was playing at my grandma's funeral. Oh, I'm sorry. Steffi, I love how passionate you are about this book. You guys, this book, like, when I first became, I would say I've been, like, a Whitney stan for, like, solidly 2 years now. And like this was the story I thought we would never hear. And the fact that like we have a book, we have so many interviews, like it's just like blowing it. Like I feel like I'm honestly still kind of in shock that Robyn is talking because she's just been radio silent for so long. um if you guys did not know, she's going to be on Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett Smith tomorrow. Her episode is airing, so I'm very excited for that. Because I saw like a little clip and like Jada's like bawling her eyes out, so I'm just like, oh Lord. Um, Marie Antoinette's cake at Stefan. I love Wind Beneath My Wings. Lungani X. Apparently, Whitney went broke in 1987 at the peak of her career. Yeah, she did because she was paying for so many different people. I don't even think, honestly, Whitney realized how many people she was like bankrolling. Again, it's that's kind of another devastating element of reading this book is you, as the book like continues, you just like see different ways in which like Whitney compromises herself, whether it's like she's compromising like her identity, she's compromising her oh no, am I buffering? She compromises like her health. She's just like always like compromising bits and pieces of herself for the benefit of other people. So yeah, it was really sad. Lungani X, yes, I remember that AIDS event she performed Don't Cry For Me. Alpha Charm, did Robyn's mom and brother die? Yes, they did pass. It's really sad. When something that I thought was kind of poignant was when Robyn was telling the story about how she went to go see Whitney at the church for the first time. Her mom told her, you have to wear a dress when you go to the church. And Robyn said, the only time I ever wore a dress was on two occasions. The first occasion was to watch Whitney perform at the church, and then the second occasion was when I wore a dress to my mom's funeral. And I was just like, oh my God. So yeah, it was sad. Patrick Smith, San Junipero vibes, right? I was literally thinking like, oh my God, like all of these like references to the beach, they're going to the beach. There's one point when they go to a gay club together for the first time, and like the gay club is like right by the beach. I was like, wow, like San Junipero, literally San Junipero in the 80s. Alpha Charm. Whitney didn't want the secret to come out. Connie, Whitney was obviously torn between her family career and Robyn. Society in that day was even more brutal than it is today. It's tragic, actually. Alpha Charm, you're doing good. Thanks. Lungani X. Whitney didn't like being vulnerable, especially in front of people. The Dreamer, you're doing good. Thanks, guys. I really don't know. Like, let me know if I'm like boring you, and then I'll stop. YB the Kid, this is juicy. Lungani X, hence she hardly cried in front of cameras. The Dreamer, her parents were homophobic. I think Robyn downplayed their feelings towards each other after the fame started. Yeah, another sad element of this book was when Robyn was talking about how she kind of like conditioned herself to like be a certain way, to hold herself a certain way, because she knew that like people were watching. So like there's this one part in the book where Robyn was like I think this is after she's left Whitney, and she goes on this date with her now wife. And the she wanted to, when they were like dating, I think she tried holding Robyn's hand, and Robyn was like kind of like, no, 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 don't touch me, or don't hold my hand, because she felt uncomfortable. But then Robyn like reflected and realized the reason why she felt uncomfortable was because like, she's been conditioned this entire time like not to do those sorts of things in public, because she was part of like the Whitney camp, the Whitney machine. So anything that she did, she knew was going to be like overly analyzed. And she was talking about how like when she was with Whitney, and not even like in the romantic sense, but like when she would like travel with Whitney, she would make sure that she was walking behind Whitney, never with Whitney, because she didn't want like people to think that they were like, girlfriends or whatever. So that whole detail of how like being part of Whitney's world, how that like really, really took a mental toll on Robyn, and how it kind of like affected the way she like behaved in the world. That was really, you know, I would say as much as Whitney sacrificed, oh no, am I buffering? I would say as much as, oh no, am I buffering? Okay, I would say as much as Whitney sacrificed in the name of her career, I would say Robyn also did a fair amount of sacrificing too, which was like, you know, it's sad. Do do do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Lungani X, I'm surprised that Whitney even made it to 48 given what her family put her through. Yeah, same. I'm surprised. I'm surprised too because they put her through a lot. Like, even before Whitney became like, Whitney Houston, like Robyn talks about how there was this one time when Whitney was walking out of her house and she came in to the car and she was like really upset. And Whitney told Robyn, like, oh, someone took my money again. And it was like money that she had earned from modeling. So it's kind of like people like her own family was stealing money from her even back then, based like just on her modeling gigs alone. And then like her brothers, um, like were, you know, they were not being good older brothers. They were out getting drugs for her and getting high with her. And then even like Sissy, like she's not really portrayed in the best light in this book at all. I think Robyn has a lot. Robyn says she like loves Sissy and respects Sissy, but at the same time, she manages to also be critical of Sissy. Like Sissy says some like awful things to Whitney. Like there's this one time when God, this I my mouth was like agape when I read this. But there's this one instance where when Whitney was moving out of the house and moving into the apartment with Robyn, as she was leaving her house, Whitney, I guess Sissy like wasn't talking to them at all, but then right when she got in the car, Sissy like came out with this like feminine product and yelled at Whitney, "Don't forget your douchebag." I was like, "Oh my god, who says that to their child?" So there was that. Um yeah, there's just like these instances where, and then I guess Whitney, because she was the only girl in the house, like she was always expected to do all the chores. So while her brothers didn't have to do anything, like Whitney like would always be the one like having to clean dishes. So yeah, they were just, I don't know, they were very let me know if I'm buffering too. They were just very hard on her. Do, do, do. Um, Sorry, I lost my place. The Dreamer. Her parents were homophobic. I think Robyn downplayed their feelings towards each other after the fame started. Lungani X. Oh yeah, okay, yes, I read this. Donicia White. Do you believe Robyn and Whitney were soulmates? Ooh. You know, this is my personal opinion and belief. I I personally do because I feel like there was such a bond and closeness between the two of them that lasted for so long. Like when you and not even just like it lasted for so long, but that relationship went through so many stages, and not even in the sense of like platonic to from like friends to romantic to friends again to business, like not even just that, like they that friendship managed to weather through so many ups and downs. Like, you know, just as much as like Robyn was there for Whitney, like Whitney was also there for Robyn. Like there was like the time when Robyn's brother gets rushed to the hospital because he gets in this horrible accident. Like Whitney's right there with Robyn when she goes to the hospital. Like she holds her hand and tells her, you know, I'm gonna be here with you every step of the way. Like they were really there for each other. So yeah, I feel like they were, and Robyn talks a lot about how like they didn't even have to say anything. Like they could just like look at each other and know exactly like what the other was thinking or like what the other needed. And it was just like that's like a really deep connection to have with someone. So personally I personally do. Um YB to kid underscore Sissy always turned a blind eye. Alpha Charm, I feel bad for Whitney. She didn't get to live the life she wanted to. She wanted. It seems like she lived for others but herself. I also blame her family for her death, especially her brother. Oh man, you guys, like I've always said, like among the two brothers, like if you were to be stuck in an elevator, who would you rather be stuck with, Gary or Michael? And I've always been like team Michael. And like thoughts and suspicions confirmed, because wow, Gary is like the worst. Like god, like I don't even know, like I don't know if you guys have ever like listened to like those early Whitney bootlegs from like 86, 87, when she's like, there's always, especially in 86, there's always a segment in the show where she does a duet, where she does duets with Gary. She'll sing like Nobody Loves Me Like You Do, or Hold Me. And like when, I guess like during this tour, Gary was like MIA during rehearsals, and literally up till the last minute, like no one could find Gary. And then he would like come sauntering in, like kind of still on something, and Sissy would just still like force Gary out there because I guess she really wanted Gary to get a record contract. And Whitney would see this. Like she would see that Sissy would give Gary a pass for going on stage in that condition. And Robyn believes like that was kind of like that may have been like that may have been like a silent like make or break moment for Whitney, in that when Whitney saw like, oh, it's so that's go showing up to work and showing up to performance like that is okay, then it's okay that I can do that too. And that clearly is not okay. So yeah, man, Gary. Oof. Do do do. Alpha Charm. How could her brother introduce her to drugs? SMH. Was he low-key jealous of Whitney? I honestly feel like Gary was low-key jealous of Whitney. Like, I mean, and it also like kind of makes sense. Like, I got that sense even not even just from this book, from that Whitney documentary, because Gary, you know, he had his own thing going for himself, in that he was playing in the NBA, but then he failed the drug test, so then he no longer had his own career. So and then after that he was, you know, relegated to singing backup for his sister. And I think that really did a number on him. Like, I think that did a number on his like self-esteem and the way that he saw himself. And I think like, yeah, it makes sense why he would resent like how his sister stars on the rise and his career just went like that so immediately. I would not be surprised if there was some like deep like harbor negative feelings he had toward Whitney. Like, how could something go so right for someone and yet everything goes so wrong for me? So yeah, I mean, like, honestly, I would not be surprised. Um, do do do. Connie, I agree. I think if Robyn was had any ill will toward the Houston family or was in it for the money, she certainly had plenty of opportunities to have done it earlier. Shay S., did Robyn touch on her living in Atlanta and Whitney coming to visit her frequently? That was a known thing here. No. Did Robyn touch on her? Oh, I didn't know Robyn lived in Atlanta. She did not disclose that in this book. Are you from Atlanta? Yeah, she didn't talk about that in this book. Jay, how did you feel about Robyn refuting the claims that Dee Dee molested Whitney? I thought that was interesting. I don't necessarily know if that's true. Like, I think it's possible for Whitney to have not told Robyn that, as like close as they were, again. And that's like kind of like, again, like Whitney's a complicated person. I think she shares what she wants to share with the people she wants to share it with. And maybe during that period of time in her young life, she didn't feel comfortable sharing that detail with Robyn, but maybe she did feel more comfortable sharing it when she was older with people who were around her more frequently. I don't know. But you know, that's Robyn's take on it. Lungani X. The reason why the Houston family hated Robyn is because she was preventing them from eating Whitney's money. The Dreamer. Whitney was upset with Robyn for trying to move on with Joy. Whitney showed up at the condo like a jealous lover. She ordered Robyn to never see Joy again. Yes. And this part was also like really dramatic. So remember how earlier I said that Whitney gave Robyn a Bible. So on the back pages of that Bible, they like made these like vows to one another. Let me see here. I literally just like read that little segment. Where is it? They made these vows to one another that, like, I think they each wrote a page and then they made these vows, and it was like what they want their like relationship and friendship to be. Like we want to be loyal to each other. We want to be like there for each other in every way. Like it was like it was very beautiful. So they made these vows. So in that instance, when Whitney goes to Rhonda, who the fuck is Rhonda? When she goes to Robyn's condo to confront her about Joy, she like brings the Bible and she like tears the pages of the vows that they made to one another. And again, you're just like, girl, what are you doing? What are you doing? But yeah, God, I wish I could. I want to really read that excerpt. It really bothers me that I don't know where it is. And the sad thing too is, I guess the day that they made those vows was it was dated like February 13th, 1982. And if you guys know, Whitney passed on February 11th. So that's an unfortunate coincidence of timing. Gosh. Where in the world? Oh. Get the book, okay? Just get the book. Let's see here. Lungani X. Did she speak about that rumor that apparently Whitney's dad paid someone to break her leg from the documentary? Yes, she did speak on it, but at the moment, her thoughts on it are escaping me. I'm really, really sorry. Again, I read this book in one go on a Tuesday, so yeah, she did address that though. Alpha Charm, family can be your enemy. I think Whitney's family was her enemy. Lungani X, and did she speak about Pat Houston? Not really. I was really surprised that she didn't really speak about Pat. Like she barely mentions Pat. Like I think not until the very end. But even at that, it's not like, I think Pat's like, blah, blah, blah. It's not, she rarely mentions Pat. Maybe that even in of itself might be a bit of a, but I did think her response at the Wendy Williams show, when Wendy asked her about her thoughts on the hologram, when she just didn't say anything, I thought that was funny. Yeah. 7, yeah, I'll be happy when Sissy dies. Oh my god. Okay, well, I mean, those are your words, not mine, Stefan. Lungani X, LL, sorry for asking so many questions. No, it's okay, it's okay. You guys can ask me as many questions as you want. I'm gonna try my best to answer them. Connie, you never get over your first true love, so yes, I think they were soulmates. Lungani X, Gary Garland. Blech. Lungani X, oh wow, I didn't know that Sissy was the one pushing for Whitney to sing with Gary. Yeah. See, that's the thing too. I'm like, God, like, it's so interesting because, like, if you like watch these interviews, like, and whatnot of like Whitney during that time, it's like you would think like, oh, the family's so loving, but then like even in the documentary, I remember someone said like, a lot of people didn't even know that Sissy and John were separated at that time. So now even reading in this book that like, yeah, her brothers have like always been like not that great, and Sissy would give her brothers a pass while Whitney was always kind of like slaved away because she's the girl. Like, I don't know. The Dreamer. This book is going to be a number seller despite what the haters say. Alpha Charm, was Bobby Christina cool with Robyn? I think so. There's actually, let me see if I could find the picture here. There's a picture that Robyn shares of her with young Bobby Chris. Here, right here. that's Robyn and Bobby Chris right there. Um, yeah, I think I forget when in the book this happens too, but Robyn thinks that Bobby Christina also knew about the nature of their relationship when they were younger. So, yeah. Again, also let me know if I'm buffering because I'm watching myself on my computer and sometimes it like kind of freezes. Um The Dreamer, that's in chapter 12 with Robyn, Whitney and Joy might have something in chapter 13. Yes, I think yeah, the Joy stories in chapter 12, I believe. I was looking for what their vows said though. I like I'm calling it the vows. I really feel like it sounded like vows, but they're like friendship promises. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. God, I really like just read it earlier today too. Hmm. Where is it? Gosh. Hmm. 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 Yeah, I don't know where it is, but it's in the book. Lungani X LMAO, the hologram reaction killed me. The Dreamer, Robyn's face said it all. Lungani X, and that Whitney was also looking after Bobby's family. Oh, yes. Apparently, like, Bobby's mom, like, really saw Whitney as, like, an ATM machine. So, Scholar97, did she speak on Ray J? No, she did not. I honestly don't even like thinking about that particular chapter in her life. So I'm kind of glad she didn't speak on Ray J. Shay S. Yes, I'm from ATL. Quote unquote, allegedly. They were also caught naked in a townhome owned by Robyn, I think. That was big news here as well when it happened. Oh really? Was that like so this is like in the 2000s then? I don't know if you're still here, but yeah. Alpha Charm, Sissy was toxic and sexist. This is why her sons came out the way they did because they were spoiled. Lungani X, what do you think was Robyn's fave Whitney song or songs beside If I Told You That? Oh, okay, you guys. Okay, so in the watch it, okay? Maybe let me see if I could like link it to you guys. But don't leave my live stream, okay? I'm gonna try and send the link. Um oh god, what was it called? Let me see, wait, I'm gonna share with you this like city. Let me see, I'm trying to find it in my history here. But you should watch it because they ask her, you know, what's your favorite Whitney song, and Robyn's response, I was like, oh, Stan, like of course, like taste. Her favorite Whitney song is Dancing on the Smooth Edge. Okay, watch this. I literally just posted a link. You guys should watch it. Ooh, I don't know if I just buffered. But yes, Robyn's favorite song is apparently Dancing on the Smooth Edge, which is like in my like top 5 Whitney songs. So we love that. We love that. I'm an I'm Your Baby Tonight girl. So um let's see here. D Brown, the part about Bobby doing that to Whitney made me cry. The Dreamer, the friendship promises is in chapter 3 going into chapter 4. Okay. Chapter 3 going into chapter 4. What page is that? Okay, 33, 50. Okay. Yeah, I felt like cuz she gives her the Bible in, isn't it in chapter 4? Sorry. God, where is it? Okay, well, again, just read the book. um, Julia Roberts, OMG, I caught the live. Yes. Yes. Lungani X, what was the most random but interesting thing you found out about Whitney from this book? Okay, God, there's so many like funny random things. Like, I didn't know like apparently like Whitney hated so much to the point where she like I think she failed out of her freshman year of high school, and then her father had to talk to administration to try to get her back in, and he got her back in. But like she would just like not want to go to school because she just knew like singing was like her ticket. Like she knew that was what she was gonna do. So like one of my favorite one of my favorite stories, it's so short, it's like literally like two sentences, but apparently like she would, I guess she would like go to school like just like to show face that she was going to school, but then she would ditch school and she would go to her local Dunkin' Donuts and argue with the person who was like who argue with like an employee at Dunkin' Donuts, um and tell them like the way that they were making their strawberry milkshakes was like wrong. Oh my God. I thought that was so funny. I just like, yeah. Another like funny little story I thought too was how when she went to an all girls Catholic school, and she had in when you go to an all girls Catholic school, like you have this thing called like little sisters. I went to an all girls Catholic school too, so I know from experience you have like little sisters. So she was paired up with this young girl, and she would always give this girl lunch money like practically every day. And she was like she like said something like, "Damn girl, you don't have any money for lunch again?" Like, and she would just always give her money, and she was always just like that generous. Just like those little aside things was funny. Gosh. Oh, there was this time when she first went to Europe to do press, and they like, I guess there was already some tabloid stuff about her in the magazines, and they like, they were sitting at this table, and the interviewer lady like slid this magazine over and was like, "So what are your thoughts on this?" And then Whitney said something like, I don't really enjoy your guys' literature over here. And then she was like, "And I don't mean Shakespeare." I just thought that was really funny too. Gosh, that's all I could think of. Oh, and then Kashif, the period of time she was working with Kashif. So Kashif was the guy who produced You Give Good Love, and I think he produced Thinking About You too. I really like the work she did with Kashif, but now I kind of feel bad for liking the work she did with Kashif, because apparently she also was doing like background vocals for an album of his, and she was like kind of like being overworked by Kashif to the point where he was like taking advantage of her, like free labor. So Whitney nicknamed Kashif like the professor because he just like knew so much. So Robyn, whenever she was in the recording studio with Whitney, she could like tell when Whitney was like being fed up with like how many takes Kashif wanted her to do. So after one of the recording sessions, Whitney was in the car with Robyn and like the little sister from school, and Whitney was like, "Oh, the professor's trying to like be slick. He's trying to like take advantage and get away with certain things." So I thought, that was funny that Whitney could see what was up even back then. But yeah, I mean, I know I told a lot of like the funny stories are from like when she was like younger, because again, it's like you're like for me, it's like I felt like that was such a large like piece of the puzzle that we never really got before. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Alpha Charm, did Robyn speak about Whitney's death? Does she think Whitney was murdered? She does speak about the death. Like, she talks about how she found out. She talks about going to the funeral. I don't think, I mean, I don't know. I might have to read again and maybe like read between the lines. I don't know if she necessarily believes that like Whitney was murdered, but I'm sure like Robyn did have some questions in terms of like, why was she left alone? Like, where were her people? Like, things like that. So she did bring up those questions. Stefan, my overall consensus of Whitney Houston is that she was a beautiful, talented soul who deserves so much more in life. Yeah, I agree. It's just really sad because she just seemed like such a, like you just said, like such a vibrant person. And to just like read about all these people who just really took advantage of that and like treated her like shit is you're just like, oh my god. D Brown, yeah, Robyn left things out to be respectful. Jay, did you find yourself comparing some of the events mentioned in Robyn's book with those mentioned by Kevin Amons? I read like 75% of that Kevin Amons book. I didn't read all of it, and it was really just because like that Kevin Amons book, man, is like wild. But in terms of like comparing, I guess like I don't it's hard to compare because the way in which like Robyn specifically tells, like the way that Robyn writes this book, it 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 kind of takes a while, not a while, but like her style of telling the story is a bit like it's like a bit, oh no, am I buffering? Is a bit disjointed in that like she'll talk about something and then she'll like refer to something else, but not like something else that's so far away from what's happening again, but she kind of like jumps around a little bit. But it still makes sense, but it kind of just takes some getting used to, and for that reason that's why it's kind of difficult for me to like compare, because like that Kevin Amons book is like this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, whereas like with Robyn's telling of her story and Whitney's story, sometimes she more so goes by like themes. um Lungani X, dancing on the smooth edge. Her taste. Did she also speak about the overdose during waiting to exhale and the separation from Bobby during that period? I think she did. I mean, if anything, there were always like Robyn, when she would talk about stuff that happened like with Whitney and Bobby, she would always end it with like, I really thought like after that she would leave him, but she didn't. And I think I think she does bring that period of time up. And she also talks about how like she really thought Whitney should have like slowed down in the 90s, because she could tell that Whitney was already tired from being so like overworked. Like there was that one year she was literally on tour for 11 out of 12 months of the year. So yeah. Jay, also, I cannot believe Eddie Murphy played Whitney. In Narada's book, which I read, which is very, very good. I highly recommend that. He mentioned how Eddie looked into a mirror with Whitney and told her that they looked good together. Oh, absolute trash. Yeah, I feel like from what I've read about Eddie Murphy, he kind of like seems like the 80s fuckboy in that way. I don't know. Like I've also heard too that Eddie has this reputation of wanting to be like the superior alpha male in the relationship. Like he likes it when his women are like dependent on him, and for that reason alone, like I'm sure like, you know, I'm sure he probably didn't like that Whitney had that much like fame and money and all of that going for herself. Like he liked it when like there was like an imbalance of power in his favor. So, yeah, he did not treat Whitney well either. um, Alpha Charm. And I just also wait, before I move on, I just think it's also interesting too how like Eddie still like denies the fact that they were even in a relationship. I think the most recent interview I saw of Eddie was like in 2012, so it's been a while, but they asked him specifically like, "Oh, didn't you two date?" And Eddie's like, "No, we didn't date. We were just like friends. We were young people, coming up in the 80s. But yeah, we were just friends hanging out." And just like she definitely saw you as more than a friend, or you led her to believe it was more than that. So don't know. Alpha Charm, my fave song from Whitney as well. I think I have two. So Emotional and Exhale Shoop. Connie, you were buffering a bit. Oh no. Okay, yeah. Let me know if I'm buffering. Lungani X, LMAO. For some reason, I always thought she was like those A students. Yeah, she wasn't. She was like not a good student. Jemiah Leah, she's adorable. Oh, I miss Whitney. Lungani X. Well, I cannot imagine Whitney basically begging, for lack of a better word, for Eddie Murphy's attention. He's not even all that. Yeah, there was this one story where I guess Whitney showed up, and I think this was on the advice of Sissy and Aunt Bay to do this, if I remember correctly. Sissy, that no, we do not need that image. Whitney like showed up to Eddie's like mansion in front of the gate, and she was wearing like a fur coat, and underneath the fur coat she was like in like lingerie or something, and she was like waiting to be like let into the property, but they never let her in. So yeah, Eddie's trash. Lungani X, and Michael Jackson never got back to her for If I Told You That. He probably was getting back at Clive for I Can't Stop loving you. Yeah, I don't know. I really I wouldn't be surprised if it was that, because Michael Jackson can be petty. But I also think like during that time too, like that's the 2000s, Mike, or like late 90s, early 2000s. During that time, like Michael and Whitney both had that problem where, well, at least when Robin left, Whitney definitely had this problem, because it was detailed in Narada Michael Walden's book, where like there were so many people like around the periphery of them, and when you would try to get in contact with Michael, or say like, oh, like send him a song, he would never get the song because he was never told about the song. So I wouldn't be surprised if like he just never even knew about the song or never received the song himself, because during that time in Michael's life, like things were like crazy. So yeah. Jay. Oh, where'd it go? Jay, also, I cannot believe. Oh, wait, no, I already read that. Oh, wait, here. Jay, I love the story when Robin talked about when Whitney wouldn't row the boat back to the beach. Oh, yeah, I love that too. That was really funny. Yeah. Again, like, their stories at the beach are really funny. Alpha Charm, I wish I could have met Whitney. She seems like a cool aunt and jokester. The Dreamer, Robin's mom almost caught them naked one day. Oh, yeah, that story, I was like, whoa. That was a thing that happened. And apparently, like, yeah, like, I don't know, man, like that, like they were like doing it like a lot, like um because like they would like sneak around in hotel rooms, they would sneak to like Robin's dorm, they would go to like either Whitney's place or Robin's place, so they were just like doing it everywhere. So yeah. Let's see here. Julia Roberts' men suck, LMAO. Here's Queen, hi. Lungani X, LOL, Eddie was a dickhead. Alpha Charm, Eddie Murphy has skeletons in his closet as well. I believe he got that trans woman he had sex with murdered because he didn't want that to come out. Yeah, I heard that. I heard something about that. I don't want to speak on that because I really don't know a lot about Eddie Murphy, so that's not my area of expertise. But yeah, I've heard some things too. Lungani X, I remember seeing that Whitney interview about cooking for Eddie. Yeah, on Arsenio. Lungani X, did she speak about Michael or Whitney's personal relationship? Michael as in Michael's brother, or Michael Jackson? Stefan, hypermasculinity is one of the worst things in society. It's caused war, oppression, and violence of whole groups of people and countless other atrocities. Julia Roberts. Who is that in your... Oh, Rihanna. Okay, I was like, okay. I think he got the trans woman murder too. It adds up. Lungani X Jackson. She talks about when they went to Neverland, and Whitney was there to like present Michael with that award. She talks about that. Not so much like, oh, they had like a close friendship. It was never really, I don't know if it never really was that, or if just like Robin never like, if she just like decided not to go into detail with that like friendship or whatever, but not too much. Um, let's see here. Okay. Yeah, Willie J&M, did Whitney have a rival? Um, I mean, Robyn doesn't specifically talk about like Whitney having rivals in this book, but I mean, like in the media, people have like put her against like different women during that time, like different divas during that time, like Mariah, of course, and like Madonna and even Janet. Lovely Janet store like little tidbit was I think it was during, it might have been her Grammy performance. That was when Whitney started to include more choreography and dancers. So she did that. And I guess like the next day, Janet called Whitney's house number to like congratulate her on like a good performance because she was like including more dancers. So I was like, oh, look at that. We love to see it. But yeah, I thought that was a fun little story. Um, Jay, anybody else surprised at how shady Donna Houston and Aunt Bay was? I always thought Donna was the same one as SMH. Oh my god, Jay, same. Like the amount, like she actually goes after Donna more than Pat, which I was very surprised about because I really liked Donna Houston after that Whitney documentary, but no, apparently Donna. I was like, oh no. But yeah, damn, they were all bad. um, And Aunt Bay too, I thought was interesting. Yeah. I think Sissy was trying to include Aunt Bay more in the circle so that she could have like someone on her team, so to speak. Um, Alpha Charm, did Robyn talk about Whitney and Mariah? No. Mm-mm. Lungani X, who is Donna Houston? Donna is Whitney's sister-in-law through Michael. Michael married Donna. Julia Roberts, I'm sitting in the library and I might have to check it out. Whitney's only rival was Mariah, but they weren't even rivals. Yeah, agreed. Stefan, agreed. Julia Roberts. Lungani X, which era is that about Janet calling Whitney? That's sophomore era. Like I think this is like 1987, 1988. Vincent Lucia, hi Steffi, sorry I'm late. Lungani X, what did Robyn think of Clive Davis? I think Robyn respected what Clive was doing for Whitney's career. Like she could see that Clive was like very much had a specific vision about like what needed to be done in order for Whitney to like have a lot of success. But at the same time, Robyn could see that in like the quote unquote machine of it all, how that was like slowly but surely eating away at Whitney. Like the part where there's a part in the book where she talks about how Whitney and Robyn go to this consultation for her like what to do with her hair, and like that kind of like traumatized Whitney because they were talking about her as if she like wasn't there. They were saying, oh, we could like shave off this and this. So that element of it, I feel like Robyn, wasn't particularly fond of. I thought it was interesting too how she said that whenever Whitney and Clive would go into meetings, Clive was like polite and courteous to Robyn, but then he would, like as soon as Whitney went in, like the doors would close and like Robyn was not allowed into those meetings. And Robyn was like, well, after that, I pretty much just like went around the building and did my rounds, and I kind of learned that I was never gonna be let into that room. And Robyn says at one point like it's interesting. I thought it was interesting that like Whitney never asked if I could be in that room with her, but it's pretty much like what she says about Clive there. Uh, yeah. Let's see here. Okay. Stefan, is Donna the one who supposedly molested Whitney and her brother? No, that's Dee Dee. Yeah, that's Dee Dee Warwick. Uh Jemiah Leah. Mariah and Whitney are friends though. Vincent, is the book A Song for You available in stores now? Yes, it is. Lungani X, also, did she speak about the changes Whitney's voice went through and what were her thoughts? No, she didn't really speak on that. If anything, like, I think Robyn's thoughts were just that, like, she felt like Whitney was being really overworked and she could tell that she needed a break and she wishes that Whitney, like, slowed down her schedule. Um, and she could, and she could tell when Whitney's voice was kind of like kind of giving out in a way, but again, it's just that's tied into the idea of she knew that Whitney needed to slow down and take a break. Jemiah Leah, what about when Robyn found out about Whitney's drug use? What did she do or say? Robyn was surprised. Like, I think she describes an instance where she goes to pick up Whitney and they're sitting in the car together, and then all of a sudden she like pulls out the cigarette and Robyn's like, whoa, and then she pulls out, and then Whitney also pulls out the joint and Robyn's like, whoa, and then and she essentially says like, oh my god, like I didn't, like, you look like an angel. She looks like, I think that's what Robyn's mom says. Robyn's mom said to Whitney, you look like an angel, but I know you're not. So if anything, it was kind of like, Robyn was just like, wow, I didn't know, like, you did that kind of stuff, sort of thing. Lungani X, and does Robyn speak about Dion's role in Whitney's life? She, like, I mean, she like mentions the Warwicks here and there. Like, she talks about how like their musical influence on Whitney. She talks about how Whitney says to Robyn, like, Dee Dee could have, not Dion, but Dee Dee could have been just as big of a star, but the only thing is, like, she's like crazy or something like that. And then she also talks about how like Dee Dee like looked bored out of her mind singing background for Dion. Alpha Charm, why wasn't Aretha at the funeral? I don't know. I don't know. Didn't, like, they say like Aretha broke her foot or something, or she was like sick, something like that. Stefan, and remember, according to my best friend's wedding, Dionne Warwick is also Whitney's aunt. Lungani X, I think Dionne is the only family member who never exploited Whitney in any way. Yeah. I could agree with that. Jay, the reason I don't believe the relationship ended in 82 was because of how she reacted to Robyn dating the dancer. Fired from the show, banned from the apartment. Whitney was jealous, and we all know why. LOL. See, okay, that's like literally what I was saying in the beginning of the stream. I was saying that too. Like, I don't know. That's another, I mean, I don't think I pointed out that specific reason, but like, I don't know. I just like, you guys lived together for so long. Like, right after you guys were in this like physical romantic relationship with one another, and then you move in together like right after that, and you're like not even like living together in this one apartment and that's it, but you move from like the small apartment to like the bigger loft to the bigger house, and it's like you're not going to do anything, so yeah. And then like also those instances too of like the blatant jealousy they have whenever they see them with like a quote unquote significant other. Lungani X, and did she speak to or try to speak to Bobby Christina after Whitney's death? I don't know if she spoke to. I think she may have tried to. She may have tried to give her number, but I don't remember. But I think she does talk about it. Like, it's towards the end. But yeah, I think she might have tried to reach out to her. I think she even says like, she like was totally open to taking Bobby Christina into her own home after, but you know. I also thought it was interesting too how like Robyn even says like, and she's like already married at this point, but like Robyn like kind of says like her wife was even open to like if there ever came a time when like Whitney and Bobby Chris like had to come or like had to be like taken care of by Robyn, like she was open to that. And I was just like, oh my God, like I always wonder like how does like Robyn's wife feel, you know, like because she's like talking about her ex so much. um do 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 um Jemiah Leah. I wonder if Bobby Christina had vocals. Didn't like in Houston's On Her Own, there's a moment when like she like tries singing I'm Your Baby Tonight. I think there's that moment, but um it's a nice interpretation. Lungani X, there's a radio interview you should listen to of Whitney in 1990. She's very candid and it's done in her house. Is it the one that's like the audio? Is it like the audio CD from the I'm Your Baby Tonight press she was doing at the time? Send it to me, like Lungani X, if you have it. You can like link it to me here, or you could like DM me on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, or you could email me. Send it to me. I think I listened to that already, but yeah. Um, well, Lungani X, yes, it's that one. Let me find the link. Jamia Leah, it's sad that Robyn was technically the only good person in Whitney's life. Actually, there was another person who was really good, and that is Sylvia Vahar, who was Whitney's personal assistant. So, like, after Robyn more or less got like promoted, she had this like other lady named Sylvia Vahar who was like hired to really be like her like personal person as well. And she was good to Whitney. She was really good to Whitney. Jeanette Griffin. Hi, just popping in. Well, hello, Jeanette. Wow, there's 30 of you. Lungani X, what did you learn about Whitney that you didn't know before this book? Gosh. I knew everything. No, just kidding. I don't. That's a hard one. Because more or less, like the personality traits, like we've heard from different sources, from different like movies and whatnot, like that she was like generous to a fault, that people like took advantage of her, that she was very giving, that she was extremely talented, that you know, people took advantage of that. I would say the thing that I learned was, and oh, and also that like she was like she loved Jesus and loved God and she was very religious. Um, I guess it was more so like the specificity of those particular like aspects of her personality, like the stories behind those are like more of the things that like were eye-opening to me. Like I didn't know like she would like straight up have conversations with Jesus, like as if he's in the room. I didn't know that. Lungani X, or did this help you answer some questions you had? Um, yeah, it definitely answered some questions I had. Like, I mean, the obvious one being like, was this like relationship a thing, or was this just like something highly speculated? And like, we got confirmation of that, and more specificity in that story. That was something that we got through this book, and just more details about the personal stories and happenings in her life. Like there's lots of stories in here that were not previously told before, and that's what I like. And again, like a lot of it a lot of the stories from her youth I really, really enjoyed, because we just never really got that chunk of her life told in this way before. Let's see here. Jay, don't get me wrong. I really liked Kevin Costner's speech at the funeral, but I cannot believe that the family had him speaking over Robyn. That's just sad. Yeah. Well, you know what's also interesting too is in the Sissy Houston book, she has like an acknowledgement page, and I'm pretty sure she even thanks Kevin Costner. She thanks a lot of people, but she does not thank Robyn. um, Will oh wait, sorry, I skipped Lungani X. And did she think Kevin Costner had a crush on Whitney? Robyn doesn't say she thinks Kevin Costner had a crush on Whitney. She does talk about The Bodyguard. I wish she talked a little bit more about The Bodyguard era, like, but she does not. She talks about how, I guess, Kevin really was like calling a lot, asking, "Can I talk to Whitney?" And Robyn was like, "Oh, Whitney's not here," or like, "Whitney's busy" or something. But after much coaxing, Kevin finally got through to Whitney. I guess I didn't know either that Whitney didn't necessarily like want to be a quote unquote movie star. Like she had interest in being like in movies and shows, but I don't think she wanted to be like the main person. So something that I learned from that Bodyguard chapter is when Whitney said yes to doing it, she like the first thing she said was, "Wow, this is going to be a lot of work." So there was that. Oh no, Will and Jen M. I was about to get to your comment there. Jay, Robyn didn't say anything, but I'm thinking Costner was crushing hard. Yeah, from like interviews during not even so you were feeling a certain type of way back then, weren't you? Let's see here. Stefan, Lungani X. Many people speculated that due to their chemistry on the set of The Bodyguard and his eulogy at her funeral. Jeanette Griffin, I like the book very much so far. I'm reading chapter 7. Nice! What is chapter 7 again? Chapter 7 is... Oh, You Give Good Love. Yeah, that's a good one. Jamia Leah. This is a random question, but what's your personal opinion on Whitney as a person during the 90s through to the era of her death? The I Look to You era. Whoa, okay, so specifically during I Look to You era, I feel like Whitney... I think Whitney should have taken more of a break. I think Whitney genuinely did want to get better, but at the same time, I don't think she was in an environment or leading a life that was conducive to that desire of wanting to get better. And I think the emotional toll of having to deal with the fact that your voice really isn't what it used to be. Like, not to say that, like, she, like, sucked, but, like, her voice did change and evolve with time. And I think the emotional toll that took on Whitney's mental psyche, especially when she went out on that tour that she should have never gone on, and the physical demands of that tour, and the emotional stress that she was under when she started to fall under like high scrutiny again. I think that really, really took a toll on her, and that kind of caused her to like fall into like a bit of a relapse, which is sad, because I think if she really was like maybe gone for a longer period of time, maybe if the I Look to You era wasn't so like demanding of her, maybe she would have had a better chance. Maybe if she was surrounded by better people. That's the thing. You like start to play this like maybe game or like what if game with her, and it's sad to think about. Lungani X, is it true that Tupac and Whitney had a thing, or was it just a rumor? I don't know. I mean, Robyn doesn't talk about it in this book. And again, isn't that piece of information from Bobby's book? as well. So I don't know about that. Jay, interesting that she didn't mention Randall Cunningham or Brad Johnson. According to Ellen, Johnson and Whitney almost married. I guess she was exaggerating. Couldn't have been that important. Yeah, it is interesting, to consider what Robyn did leave and what Robyn decided to include and what she also didn't include in the book. So, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Wallflower, have we talked about Eddie calling on her wedding day? Yeah, typical fuckboy behavior. That's what that is. Lungani X, Whitney should have been doing residency shows instead of a whole full blown tour during the I Look to You era. Yeah, I agree. Like a residency that wasn't demanding. That wasn't demanding. Like I think if she just like stayed put in one place, that would have been nice for her. YB the kid underscore me too. The dreamer Whitney was responsible for a lot of people. YB the kid underscore true. Will JNM, what's the best unauthorized tell all written about Whitney? Unauthorized. I don't know. I haven't read it. I mean, I read the Kevin Amons one. I don't think that one is very good. It's just like it's crazy. That Kevin Amons one is like it doesn't even feel like a real thing. And like part of it too is not even like her drama. It's his drama. Like the things like Kevin Amons does too, you're just like, what in the world? So yeah, I don't necessarily know if I have an answer for that. Lungani X, I think I understand why she enjoyed singing aspirational songs. Sean McClanahan, if Gary Garland had enough sense, he wouldn't have left his wife and got with Pat. Yeah, good point. Um, Vanity's Mirror, when did you become a Whitney fan? Well, I mean, I was born in 1993, so, and my mom is a Whitney fan. Whitney's my mom's favorite singer, and I grew up as a dancer, and if you were like a competition dance kid, especially during like the late 90s through the 2000s to the 2010s, like Whitney's music is like practically inescapable. But I would say I really, really, really became a stan, like deep stan in 2017 following the Whitney Can I Be Me documentary, because that was really like the first documentary I'd ever really watched about Whitney that was not necessarily like, I mean, like it did focus on the drug use in Bobby Brown, but it also talked about different aspects of her life that I didn't know. Like that was the first time I ever heard about the Robyn and Whitney rumors. That was the first time I even heard about the fact that she had gotten booed at the Soul Train Awards. Like I was just like, wow, this person's a lot more complicated than Bobby Brown and drugs. And then I got intrigued. And then the thing too about becoming like a fan now that was so at least different for me growing up as a kid in like the 2000s was like even in 2012, like I remember when Whitney passed, I wanted to buy like albums, but I didn't have my own money at the time, so I was really only like cherry picking from her greatest hits. But in 2017 and now we have like streaming, so her music was just like accessible, like all her entire discography was accessible in a way that it wasn't back then when I was growing up. And then like of course like the gift of YouTube, like we have all these bootlegs and interviews and concerts. Well, not all these concerts, we should have more concerts, but yeah, there's just so much more to like get into. That's why it becoming such a fan was like easier. um Lungani X, I think the reason why she never got into writing is because she would have been forced to talk about her problems. Interesting. Jemiah Leah, on the Wendy Williams show, Robyn said she didn't want to give too many details or exploit Whitney's life because she just wanted to give her story in a respectful way. Yes. Her interview with Wendy, she did a pretty good job holding her own against Wendy. Like her little story about how her and Whitney were gonna pull up to Wendy was really funny. Lungani X, oh, I really love when Robyn told Wendy that they wanted to pull up on her. Vanity's Mirror, thank you for answering. That was an amazing documentary. The Dreamer, when Robyn, Whitney, and Syl went to Bobby's house in ATL, the whole Brown family lived there. Ah, yes, that happens in the book. Jay, after reading Whitney's book, I feel bad for Sylvia. Yes, honestly, like Sylvia Vihar is like the underrated MVP of this story. Like, just saying. Um, the Houston family and Bobby Brown really put her through it. The crap she must have witnessed, right? Um, Jeanette Griffin, just a thought. Will the book turn into a movie? What do you all think? I don't know. You know, I am of the personal belief that Whitney's story, you can't really do it justice in the movie form unless you were focusing on a very specific point in her life. But if you wanted to tell the whole life, you can't do it in a movie because too much happened to in order for it to be like told in a just way within like the movie format. Like if you're literally going from like childhood to like death, like there's no way you're gonna tell a Whitney Houston movie. I'm of the personal belief that if you want to do like a biopic of some sort, it's better if you just do a mini series. Like I mean, the Selena mini series that's coming out on Netflix like next year. I think that's smart to do versus movie. And you know, to think like Selena, she's someone who, you know, she died young. Unfortunately, she didn't live a very long life. But Whitney, she at least she died young too, but she lived longer than Selena, and she went through a lot. So I just feel like if they were to ever like make this into something, I would much rather it be like a mini series, if anything, not a movie. And if they were to make it into something, I don't know if I would want it like now. I don't know. I don't know. If you wait too long, like, is that weird? I don't know. Jamia Leah, yes, Robin was about that life. At Lungiani actually looked over Wendy, plus Wendy was being extremely disrespectful and annoying during the interview, did not even give her a chance to finish speaking. Lungiani X, and also, did she speak about how Whitney felt regarding that black community turning their back on her? She did. She actually said that Whitney she said like Whitney wasn't that bothered, but then I'm forgetting what the but was. There was something that Whitney was actually more bothered about than the booing, but I'm forgetting what it is at the moment. Um, Lungani X, don't you just love how people in the industry, especially the ladies, all have the same thing to say about meeting Whitney, always being supportive and gracious? Yes, I love that. I love that. Jay, I was frustrated at all the red flags Whitney ignored before getting with Bobby, including Bobby's waiter butler's warning. When I read that, I was like, girl, run. I know, like, it's just so funny, like, when you're reading the book, you're, like, trying to, like, mentally tell, like, Whitney, no! But it's like, well, it already happened. um, Stefan, I have a feeling my life with Whitney Houston will become a Lifetime movie soon enough. LOL. God, I hope it doesn't go to Lifetime. Ooh, God, please don't let it go to Lifetime. Wallflower, what are some Whitney biographies would you recommend? I would recommend this. I would also recommend the Narada Michael Walden biography. I thought was very good. I mean, it's a different perspective because Narada is that was her longtime producer, particularly during like the 80s, early 90s. Um, but yeah, I would get that. There's nice insight on like her creative process there. Um, I would not recommend the Kevin Amons book. I mean, like it's too crazy. It's too wild. I have the Sissy Houston book, but I need to have some space before I read that book because I'm like kind of mad at Sissy at the moment after reading this book. So, um, there's that. I mean, I would say, you know, if you're into watching the documentaries, like I would still say go watch the Whitney documentary, go watch Can I Be Me? Um, Lungani X, I really hope this is the last thing people are going to release regarding Whitney's personal life. We need more about her craft and gift. Yeah, me too. I hope like this is it. Like I don't really need to hear from anyone else. Like Robyn was truly the last person that like I was really interested in hearing from. I don't really need to hear from anybody else in that circle, nor do I really care to hear from anybody else. I agree. Like now that this is done, this is out, I want like let's restore the concert footage, like to HD, release the concert footage, like that's what I want. Okay. um Mungani X. Oh wait, I read that. YB the Kid. I would want Ryan Murphy to tell her story because I like how he did Feud. Ryan would be good. I heard some people want Lena Waithe, which I don't necessarily know if, I mean, like, I know Lena's like, she did that interview with Robin and she's a huge Whitney fan, so we know that she cares about the subject. But in terms of like her style of storytelling, I don't know if necessarily I don't know how she would do with like biopics or biopics. But yeah, I mean, as long as it's like good quality and done in a respectful way and it's not a movie, then I'm here for it. Um Lungani X, if only Whitney made Robin in charge of her estate, we get everything we need as fans. Right? Like, truly, truly. The Dreamer. I read both of Sissy Houston's books. She's not the woman she writes about. Oh, okay. I mean, I read a little bit of it. I read like the first couple chapters. Um, Jeanette Griffin. There are four dogs about Whitney, but this book puts her in a very respectful light that she deserves. I agree. Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like for all the what's been said about like Robin and people like criticizing and saying like, she should have just been quiet or this is so disrespectful. It's like you clearly haven't like read the book because it's really not disparaging of Whitney at all. And it kind of makes you like question like, well, why are you saying it's disrespectful? Are you saying it's disrespectful because she's confirming that they were in a relationship at one point? Is that what's disrespectful? Um YB the Kid underscore. I think they should get some up and coming actress and hopefully someone from East Orange. Lungani X. And to think how many shows she did throughout her first four tours, her voice really lasted longer than it should have. Yeah. See, that's the thing that like bothers me too. I'm just like, you mean to tell me like Whitney literally spent most of her life freaking touring? She put all that work in her touring and her live performances for none of that to really ever like be released in a formal way. Like, you're kidding me. Like, that's so ridiculous. Um, the Dreamer, Robin has the right to share her story. I agree. Um, Jay, I feel like Robin tried to hint at Gary's creepiness. That part where he randomly invited her over to, quote, talk, I thought that was suspect. Oh, yes. That was suspect. I thought that was a bit suspect, too. Yeah, Gary's weird. And then also, I think there was that moment too when like he like just randomly yelled in her face like what? And then like when she was sitting in the tour bus and he just like gave her the evil eye. Like what? Oh, it was weird. Um yeah. Okay. Well, I guess I'll stick around for maybe like 10, 15 more minutes if you guys have any more um like discussion points about the book that we could get into. Man, I did this for like 2 hours. It's intense. Leon M, OMG, hi. Um, yeah. But if you guys have any like last minute things you want to add or ask or anything, you can ask away. I'm sorry that I didn't like, it would have been a lot better if I just like specifically like had post-it notes of things that to talk about. But this, I highly recommend this book if you're like a Whitney fan. Like, I feel like you should read this book. Even if you're like remotely interested in the story, I feel like you should read this book. It's worth reading. And I feel like if anything, like it's a bit of like a history lesson in that it's a story about how like black two black women who had a romantic relationship with one another at some point, they more or less had to compromise that relationship in the name of like one's professional success. And a lot of it stems from the fact that they lived in a particular time in history and they were part of a particular cultural background. So Yeah, I think this is it's an interesting story, and I think it's a story worth being told. Um, Jay, haha, Sissy tried to leave her affair with that pastor out of both her books, but the family and Robyn exposed her. Yeah, there is an instance in this book when Sissy and the pastor that she was having an affair with, they were I think they essentially tried setting up Whitney and the son of the pastor on like a double date, and they were supposed to be acting as chaperones, but really Whitney and the son of the pastor were more or less like cover ups for the fact that Sissy and the pastor were going on the date, which I was like, ooh, yikes. Um, Lungani X, remember on the Whitney documentary when Gary was asked about Robyn? Yeah, I mean, the way he answered that question in the documentary is like already telling enough. Um, the Dreamer, I feel Robyn left some things out. Yeah, I think so too, but I think she did it out of respect. Um, Let's see here. Lungani X, what did you take from the book from Whitney's life, like life lessons and stuff? Wow, life lessons. The importance of the importance of who your inner circle is, and how if the people you surround yourself with are like trash, your life is really gonna start reflecting that. Um, another other life lessons, like I mean the importance of like trying to stay true to who you are, and how, you know, it's not an easy journey, but nothing is really worth sacrificing your mental and emotional like happiness and your true identity. Nothing is really worth that, because when you compromise bits and pieces of yourself, even if it begins as like small pieces of yourself, along the way you're going to find that you completely lose yourself, and that's sad. um the importance of friendship, like I mean like the friendship that Robyn and Whitney did have, I think is like an admirable one. It's a very complex and beautiful one, and I think, you know, a lot of great things came from that relationship. Like again, I always keep referring back to like the younger years, but like Whitney and Robyn really did like work together to try and like make something of Whitney's career. Like even in fashion, like Robyn was driving Whitney around to all of her modeling gigs, and she would drive Whitney around to all of her like club gigs when she was performing backup and whatnot. So, you know, the beauty of that friendship as well was something admirable. Um, YB the kid underscore, this was good. You can still come back because you still have more chapters to go. Hopefully. Oh, I already read the entire book. Um, it probably just seems like I didn't really read the entire book, but it really does, like when if you read this book like quick too, it's like such an emotional like blur. You're just like, wow, a lot happened. Um, the Dreamer, True at J, Leon M, Whitney Houston is a legend. Period. Her music makes me feel my inner diva, making me feel powerful and also bad bitch. We love that. Lungani X, but like, who can you turn to if your own blood is the one doing you dirty? I mean, we are always told blood is thicker than water. Maybe she took that way too far. Yeah, that's true. But I think that again, that goes to show like there were people who were good at one point for Whitney. Like Robyn was a good person in Whitney's life. Sylvia Vahar was a good person in Whitney's life. But unfortunately, like other people started to outnumber them and form kind of like this wall around Whitney. And I think when that started to happen, that's when Whitney's life really began to tumble. Um, da, da, da. Um, let's see here. Jemiah Leah, moral of the story is stay away from toxic people. Don't let anyone change you. When someone you know is real and true, stay with them and don't distance yourself from the people who truly care. Well put, Jamia. Couldn't have said it better myself. Jamia Leah, we sometimes turn away the Robins in our lives. YB to kid underscore. I truly would love to see a beautiful love story based off this book. Jeanette Griffin. I think Robyn was sucked in because of the bigger dreams she and Whitney shared and the vows. Yes. Oh my God. Oh yeah. I think Jeanette, you already, if you're in chapter 7, you probably already read past the vows. But yeah, the vows that they make to each other, you're just like, I think she even like talks a little bit about it in the Windy interview. But yeah. Actually, one of my favorite like Robyn Whitney moments in this book is when there's a point when they're at like the recording studio. I think like Robyn drives Whitney to like some recording studio session thing, and then she's there, and then like Robyn and Whitney kind of like wander off, and they find like an abandoned room where there's a piano, and there's been like rumors that Whitney can play the piano, but like people are like, nah, she couldn't play instruments. And then like you'll see like random clips of her like dabbling here and there. But in this book, Robyn said that Whitney could play a tune or two. So Whitney goes to the piano and she tells Robyn to like sit next to her, and she starts to like play this like melody. And Whitney's like, "Oh, you don't know what this is?" And Robyn's like, "Oh wait, just give me a second." And then it's Roberta Flack's "The First Time I Ever Saw Your Face," and Whitney essentially starts to like serenade Robyn on the piano with that song. And I'm like, and I thought that was like also confirmation too, because in the Whitney documentary, there's a moment where you actually hear audio from Whit about how she felt, what was her first impression of Robyn. And I remember in the documentary she talked about how like when she first saw Robyn, she was like, so statuesque, and she had like this beautiful afro, and she was like, wow. And I just thought like that song choice like further confirmed that her first impression of Robyn. And I was just like, oh, this is a moment, and it's so nice. Da, da, da. Jamia Leah, the short story of Whitney giving Robyn the Bible and telling her, "Love me unconditionally," is so beautiful and sad. Right? Ooh, I have a question for you guys. So, if any of you have like read the book or are reading the book, which Whitney songs now are you like, oh my God, this just like hits differently now, I've kind of like been avoiding her music a bit because I'm just like it's too much. It's still like too fresh. Um which Whitney songs are you guys like, oh my God, this is a lot? The Dreamer, Sissy also stopped Whitney and Robyn from going to award shows together. Robyn could no longer sit next to Whitney in public or ride in the same car. Right. Yes, that's right. And even in some award shows too, you could see like Robyn's like rows behind Whitney. Lungani X, wait, when did Robyn and Whitney stop living together? I think sometime in the 90s. I know at some point they moved in together into that big house in Mendham, I believe. But then after that, I think maybe around the time when she got married, they no longer live together. Lungani X, what's the most hilarious thing you read from this book? Oh God, I don't know. I can't really think off the top of my head the most hilarious thing. There were several moments where I laughed. I mean, like again, it's such a throwaway moment, but just like a young Whitney getting mad at the Dunkin' Donuts employee for not knowing how to make a strawberry milkshake, I thought was funny. God, I don't know. It's not in the book, but Robyn, I think, told this story on Dateline, where her and Whitney were driving in separate cars, but they were leaving an event, and it was like 3:30 in the morning or something, and the highway was clear, and Whitney wanted to like race, and her and Robyn were like racing against one another, like speeding down the highway. But Robyn was like, wow, she's going really fast. So Robyn started to slow down so then Whitney could slow down. But then they still kept going like relatively fast. But then at one point, like the police sirens like were behind them, and the police caught up to Robyn. And then Robyn was like, "Well, how come you didn't stop the other car?" And then the police officer was like, "Well, because I was able to catch you." And then Robyn was like, "Well, the car you really want to catch is that one, because that's Whitney Houston's car." I thought that was funny. I also just thought it was funny, just like reading about how much like Whitney did not give a shit about school. The Dreamer, Whitney played the piano by ear. That was a special moment. Lungani X, oh, that's so beautiful to hear. I can already see it. Lungani X, well, I haven't read the book, so which songs are those for you? Gosh, I mean, I feel like You Give Good Love. I can't, like, You Give Good Love, You Give Good Love specifically, like the live version. I just, ooh, man, that just like hits differently. I think I Have Nothing hits differently now too. I think Run to You hits differently now. Yeah. Didn't We Almost Have It All would probably hit a bit differently too. Sean McClanahan, for example, Gary and Pat thought taking Whitney and Bobby to Israel would get them off drugs instead of rehab. Yeah. Shay S, even though it was a cover song, I believe A Song for You was for Robyn. Whitney even sung it on her last album, and she switched up the lyrics a tad bit. Oh my god, okay, yes. She did switch up the lyrics a bit? Really? I will say, I love the beginning of that version of A Song for You on I Look to You, but I hate how it became like a dance remix towards like the end. I was just like, oh god, why? What was I gonna say? Oh, okay, there was someone on Twitter pointed this out, but apparently during her I Look to You tour, Whitney performs I Will Always Love You in, I think this is in Korea, and at some point she shouts out Robyn. Does anyone know, did anyone know this? I don't even know if Robyn knows that this happened. But yeah, there's a performance. Let me see if actually I can get that for you guys so you can see. Give me a second here. Okay. Give me a second. I found it. I just need to share the link. Okay, I'm gonna link it right now. But in this performance, I think it's at the 2:42 mark. She specifically shouts out Robyn, which I was like, what in the world is this? What's happening? Let's see here. Jay, I Have Nothing in a performance of A Song for You at Welcome Home Heroes hit differently. Poetry Soul Run to You is just too much now, which is interesting you say it's just too much, because I've heard that, you know, Whitney, you know, she didn't sing Run to You often. I think she only performed it like twice or three times while on tour, and I heard the reason why she took it off her set list was because it was just too much for her to emotionally sing. So I wonder if, like, you know, I wonder, like, I don't know, I'm not trying to say anything, but I it does make you wonder why. Vanity's Mirror, Did We Almost Have It All? Jay, if you really listen to the words of A Song for You, it really sums up the nature of Robyn's feelings perfectly. Yeah, I agree. Oh man, when I first learned that Robyn named her book A Song for You, I was like, let's see here. Lungani X, wait, what's the story behind Run to You? Because there were rumors that it was too emotional for her. That's why she hardly performed it. Yeah, I don't know, but I just think it's interesting, like the fact that like we're all now making like these these comparisons to Run to You now, and like that she took that song off her set list because it was too emotional. Like if we're thinking it's too emotional for us to listen to, I can't imagine what it's like for her to sing it. Buzzworthy, does she just discuss the last time she actually sees Whitney? Yeah, she actually it's really sad because like in the last chapters you get the sense that like she wants to try, like this is like after she's left like the Whitney camp. Like her and Whitney have like a couple of run-ins where like, not like run-ins, but like they have a couple of instances where like they see each other somewhere at like an event or something, and you know, they say, hey, let's talk, and then they say, okay, we'll talk, and then they never follow through with that. And then there's this one devastating instance where like Robyn said she was going through her like voicemail, and you know how like sometimes when you're going through like voicemail you're just like quickly deleting. So she got a voicemail from Whitney, and it was just like she only heard the beginning of it, but right after she deleted it, she realized that she recognized it was Whitney's voice, and she never heard the full voicemail. So it's just like, oh God, like it's just like you always have like these narrow misses. And then there's like other narrow misses too when it's like Whitney and Robyn are about to finally like have this discussion, and then Bobby Brown comes out of freaking nowhere and pulls Whitney away, and you're just like, God, like that happens so many times. So yeah. The Dreamer. I still cry listening to I Will Always Love You. I feel like I Will Always Love You is definitely going to hit differently now post reading this book. Jamia Leah, One Moment at a Time is the best song of all time, by the way. Lungani X. I don't know why I always think of Robyn when I listen to Like I Never Left. Yeah, there's a lot of people who think Like I Never Left was about Robyn, and I think people also think that because that's one of the few songs that Whitney has writing credit for. So never know. Sean McClanahan, You Give Good Love from the Bodyguard tour in 1993 has more soul to it. Tori Boy 25, she is saying Roxy. Jeanette Griffin, oh yes, she did. Lungani X, the first line, I've been so many places in my life and time. Lungani X, what did she think about being Bobby Brown? Oh, I think, I don't know if she necessarily, I don't know if she necessarily talks about being Bobby Brown here, but she, in one of the interviews I was watching, she said that she says that she like only got through the first like 15 minutes of it and then like shut it. So that pretty much goes to show what she thought of that show. But yeah, I would assume that she didn't think too highly of that show. I mean, like, if anything, like, that show, like, that just, like, exhibited the kind of, like, environment that Whitney was around at the time. So, yeah, I don't know. It's sad. Like there's times where I can watch Being Bobby Brown and be like, oh, that yeah, this is funny. But then there's other times when I'm like, I can't watch it because it's just like so sad. It's so sad. Like it's crazy to me to think like, because when did Being Bobby Brown come out? That came out in like what, the mid 2000s, like maybe what, 2005, and just like 2004, like just like 10 years ago in 94, 95, like Whitney was doing like freaking Waiting to Exhale and like coming off of her Bodyguard tour. You're just like, wow, my God, look how like quickly things turned. Let's see here. I'm sorry, my nose is like so itchy right now. For some reason, whenever I do live streams, my nose gets so itchy. Lungani X, the first line, I've been so many places in my life and time. What did she think about being Bobby Brown? Oh, wait, I reread that. Okay. YB to Kid underscore, I wonder if that was her way of telling Robyn she knew her death was coming. I heard that the letter she gave Brandy was about her death. Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know. Do you ever think we're gonna learn what, that note from Whitney to Brandy was about? I don't know. Let's see here. Tori Boy 25. It sounds like she's saying Roxy, not Robyn, the video she shared. I mean, I don't know. You can't like. I mean, the sound quality is kind of bad in the video. I personally think she says Robyn, but I don't know. I may be wrong. YB to Kid underscore. It sounded like Robyn to me. Lungani X. And did she make any comments about Whitney being a mother? Yeah, I think she does. Yeah, she does. She says that she could tell that Bobby Christina really wanted her mother's attention, but because there were just so many demands of Whitney, it was hard for Whitney to give Bobby Chris the attention that she needed. And plus, because thanks to Bobby Brown, there were always so many other kids around Bobby Chris. It was hard for Whitney to, really give her that solitary attention she deserved and needed. Um, yeah. Um, Stefan, this is all I remember about being Bobby Brown, lol. Jamia Leah, Sissy's letter about how God told her that Whitney was not going to be here for a long time is sad. Mungani X, lol, I've never watched Being Bobby Brown. I can't bring myself to doing it. Jeanette Griffin, I'm looking forward to the Red Table Talk tomorrow. Me too, girl. Me too. Mungani X, that Brandy letter. Eye emojis. Stefan, I remember when the Soup RIP parodied the Kiss My Ass comment at their end of the year special. Yeah, I remember the Soup being on as a kid. Jamia Leah, hopefully Brandy shares what the letter said soon. The Dreamer, I know Robyn and Whitney loved each other. Wrong time for both. Yeah. Vanity's Mirror, well, I just listened to the link you posted and she did say Robyn. Yeah, case in point, you guys, this is just a really sad story. But yeah, I don't know, it's sad. I don't think there's like any real like telling of Whitney's life where at the end of it you're just like, what a feel good. Like it's always just sad. Lungani X, I'm just glad people will get to see that Bobby is not the saint he painted himself to be last year when he released that movie. Right? Yeah. Poetry Soul. I made the mistake of listening to Run to You while reading that love letter from Robyn at the end. Geez, that got me for sure. Oh yes, Robyn. Oh God, Robyn at the very end like has this letter that she never sent to Whitney. It's so sad. Jay, disappointed at how hard that family worked to remove Robyn and other outside parties from Whitney's life, yet they didn't bat an eyelash at her drug abuse. They really let her down. Yeah, that's another thing too. And I remember someone even said back during the Whitney Can I Be Me documentary how it's interesting that this family riddled with drugs would rather get rid of the fact that their daughter was in a relationship with another woman instead of confronting the drug use like early on. But yeah, that's really apparent in this book as well. Connie, I really didn't care about Bobby Brown. The angst of it was so palpable. I didn't finish watching it. I didn't see her getting baptized. I did see her getting baptized in the Jordan River. Vanity's Mirror, Bobby's movie was trash. Yeah, like Bobby Brown, because I watched that movie too. He really painted himself to be like a saint. Like truly, everything in that movie that happened, like it was never his fault. It was always other people's fault. And even like his mom in the movie was like blaming other people and never Bobby. And I was just like, Jamia Leah read the letter. OMG. Oh, me read the letter? I thought I don't know. Do you guys want me to? I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what page the letter is on anymore. As you guys have noted in this live stream, I'm very bad at locating particular excerpts that I wanted to read, and I should have been more prepared for this. I think I remember it like appearing on this page. I always could picture what page things appeared, but I never know like where in the book it appeared. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know where the letter is. God. Jay, I'm glad Sissy stepped in eventually, but she waited sorry, I lost my place. Oh. Gosh. Where? Oh, here, okay. Jay, I'm glad Sissy stepped in eventually, but she waited too damn long. She know Whitney had a problem since the 80s, but waited until 2000 something to do anything. Lugani X, you think Bobby Brown loved Whitney? I just think he was after her money. Maybe he liked her at first, but was never in love with her. I don't know how he really felt about Whitney. I don't know if I really don't know. Yeah, I really don't know. I think like they both were not good for each other. Like people always say like, you know, Bobby obviously wasn't good for Whitney, but I don't think Whitney was good for Bobby either because like they both brought out the worst in each other. Like I remember the assistant of Whitney in the documentary said like it was like a strange kind of love. So yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. Um Vanity's Mirror, yes, I agree. Him and his new wife. Stefan, yes, read the letter. Okay, if I can find the letter, I'll read the letter. The Dreamer. After Robyn left, Whitney's life went to pieces, and Bobby and Whitney divorced 6 or 7 years later. Bobby and Whitney spent a lot of time separated from each other. Whitney felt alone after Robyn left. Buzzworthy TV. What I hate the most is that exploiting this woman and her death to the point that she's basically going on tour 7 years after her death. Disgusting. Yeah, I hate it too. I hate it too. I think it's so like wrong, and it's just so creepy to me. And the fact that like Gary's gonna be singing backup for her, Gary, who's saying backup for his real living sister, is gonna be singing backup for a now hologram version of his sister. What the hell is that? I think that's so weird. Lungani X, yes, please read it if you can. Poetry Soul, page 288. Okay. Okay, wait. Page 2... Okay. I have the page here. Let me read a couple more comments, and then I'll read the letter. Stefan, when Deborah Wilson parodied Whitney on Mad TV, they jokingly referred to Bobby Brown as her pimp. Vanity's Mirror, Bobby's actions towards her was just a mess. That getting arrested, his cheating, terrible. Jamia Leah, also, have you heard or seen Glennis Grace covering Whitney Houston songs? It's beautiful. Just a suggestion if you can react to her covering Run to You by Whitney. I have heard of Glennis. I've seen a couple of her videos. I think she's like super talented, but I'm of the opinion where I'm kind of tired of watching Glennis Grace do Whitney Houston. Period. I don't know. I'm just like, the thing for me with like Glennis is like she literally copies Whitney like to a T, to the point where she is copying even the live renditions. Like every little run Whitney did, every breath, like she is doing it to a T. She's dressing exactly like Whitney. And it would be one thing too if she was like promoting herself as like some sort of like Whitney Houston tribute act, but she's still promoting herself as Glennis Grace. And like obviously us stans, we can like pinpoint and be like, oh, that particular rendition of You Give Good Love is from this. But regular people wouldn't know that, and they're gonna think that like, oh, she's just coming up with this by herself, when it's like, no, she's like quite literally taking from Whitney. So I have some thoughts on Glennis. I think she's very talented, but get your own stuff, girl. The Dreamer. Bobby was also abusive. Yes, he was. All right. Well. Oh. Okay, wait a second. Okay, never mind. I thought I was gonna have to open the door. Well, Jamia Lee, I respect your opinion. Personally, I think Glennis Grace would be a better option rather than the hologram. Maybe that's just me. Well, I mean, Glennis could keep doing what she's doing, but I would rather there not be a hologram, period. You know what I would rather have? I would rather us restore concerts of Whitney, and then like let's put that out on, I don't know, a streaming service, or at the very minimum release it on DVD for us to purchase, instead of us relying on other people. Like why don't we look at like the real work that the real Whitney did and watch that instead? That's what I want. But okay, so I'm going to read the letter now. It's on this page. It's on page 288. It looks like this, okay? Looks like that. Okay. It says, Nip, I reached out to you 3 days ago, still no word. I wanted to write you a long time ago, but every time I took a pen to paper, no flow. Sad, huh? So much to say. I'm in New York City across the water where all the action is, sitting in my car waiting for a space to open up. Oh, okay, by the way, I think she's writing this letter in the early 2000s, I believe. Yeah, okay. The rain on my windows looks like tears. It's beautiful. You know, I love life. It's filled with many things, some joyful, some painful. For a long while, my heart was heavy, very heavy. I missed my mom and Marty every second of the day. Robyn's mom and brother have already passed in the moment of her writing this. My life changed. Sometimes you don't change with it, but then you have to catch up so you can live on. I have plans and lots of them to enjoy my life. I spent too much time taking responsibility for other people's lives. It's time I took responsibility for my own. How are you? What is important and what is not? You know you have a friend in me for life, always. Whenever you decide to pick up the phone or come and see me, I'll be there. I spent a lot of my life with you, and I wouldn't change one thing. Though, if I knew then what I know now, perhaps I would have handled things differently. It's simple. I didn't know. I'm not kicking myself ever again. Life's too short. You know, I love you. You need to know that I'm concerned about you. I want to see you happy, healthy, and whole again. You can and must get back up again. I know God gave you that gift too. Always here, there, and everywhere for you, Robyn. P.S. Oh yeah, can't forget Bina, that's Robyn's little sister, is on a cruise with family. Los Angeles was good for her. Her mind is a lot better. I just have to love her more. And she never sent that letter. Yeah, she wrote that letter in September of 2001. She never sent it. Okay. Vanity's Mirror, I agree. Lungani X, as Whitney has said, there will never be another Barbara. There will never be another Aretha. There will never be another me. Everyone needs to get their own. Whitney, 1999. D. Brown, I got the audiobook. Robyn is reading it. Still want to get the physical book. You should. Lungani X, did the letter get to Whitney? No, it never got to her. She never mailed it. Jamia Leah at Lungani X. Love her. And yeah, didn't she also say that a hologram of her would be like a demon or an evil spirit? I think Prince said that. I don't think Whitney ever said that. But yeah. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoy that little excerpt from the book. Is there anything else you want me to read from the book before I go? I could try and look for specific things. Where's the person who was here earlier giving me specific pages? You really helped me out here. Vanity's Mirror. Yes, Prince was completely against holograms. Lungani X, LMAO, at Jamia LMAO, one thing I loved about her is that she was very sure of her gift. Yeah, and Robyn makes that very clear in this book as well. Oh god, my nose is so itchy. Lungani X, that letter was heartbreaking. Yeah. You think the letter's heartbreaking. Read the whole book, man. That's heartbreaking. Jamia Leah, thanks for sharing the book with us. I appreciate it. Anytime. Well, I hope you guys, do go out and get the book. I'm like literally, I'm not being paid to promote the book if that's what you guys think is happening. I think, this book is worth reading, especially if you're like a huge Whitney fan or anything. So, I highly recommend if you haven't gotten it already, like you make the time eventually to purchase it. It's sad, but I feel like there's some like odd like closure to this like question of like what was this relationship. Also, I was talking about this with my friend the other day. Something that I noticed too, and if you look at any of Whitney and Robyn's pictures together, is you notice how it's usually Whitney who's the one being affectionate in the picture. It's never Robyn. And I think that was kind of like a choice on Robyn's part because she didn't want the media to be like, oh, look at her, look what she's doing. Which is kind of sad. So, yeah, like, I mean, like, even here, I thought that was interesting. It's interesting if you like look back at the pictures and you're just like, oh, I'm like realizing certain aspects and patterns that I didn't weren't apparent to me. But yeah, let's see here. Jamia, Leah, thanks for sharing the book with us. I appreciate it. Dee Brown, I think she read some of it to her poetry soul. Let's talk about Whitney Robyn and the dancer who got fired. That slapped too, lol. I think I read a little excerpt there from that. That was very dramatic. It was very soap opera-y. I was like, wow, Whitney must have felt a certain type of way about joy. um let's see. Lungani X, I know that when you look at me, there is so much that you just don't see. Connie, thanks, Steffi. Lungani X, did she speak about any physical altercations Whitney got into, especially with famous people? Um, I don't know. Who are you referencing when you say especially with famous people? She does talk about the scar that Whitney gets during that boat trip she and Bobby go on. Robyn says that even though Whitney tells her like they threw glass at the wall and it like shattered, she like more or less kind of hints that she thinks that Whitney was lying and she thinks that Bobby probably threw that at her. Let's see here. Lungani X, have you seen BB Winans' interview about Whitney wanting to hit Mariah at the AMAs 1992, if I'm not mistaken, when they first met? I think I have. It's been a while since I've seen that. He sent it to me though. But yeah, Robyn doesn't mention that. She I don't think she even mentions Mariah honestly in this book, if I remember correctly. So yeah. All right. Well, Poetry Soul. Now Whitney's album liner notes, messages to Robyn hit differently as well, and look how they change over the years too. Yeah, that's like one thing I really miss. Like I kind of like hate about the streaming era is the fact that like we can't read the liner notes. My aunt actually has like a lot of Whitney's albums, and I remember there was one time when I was over there, I was reading the liner notes, and it was interesting to see the evolution of that. And Robyn puts in one of the liner notes. I think it's from the first album in the book. So, yeah. But if you guys have any other thoughts, questions, topics of discussion that you want me to cover, ask away. Because I know this book like literally just came out, so if you guys have anything you want to ask in case you haven't gotten it already, I'm here. Lungani X, are the liner notes not available online? I think they are, but I mean, like, I just wish there was a way on like streaming services that like you could see the liner notes like in the actual app. Jeanette Griffin, I saw that too, that Robyn was very cautious of the camera. Yeah. Like, I mean, like here, like, look, Whitney has her hand over Robyn's shoulder. Also, that picture of them on the boat together, it's Whitney reaching over to Robyn. Robyn's hands are always like to herself. And then also here in, where are the pictures? Oh, here. Also in this picture too, you see that it's Whitney's hands on Robyn, and I think, you know, that's like a choice. I think it always had to be, if anything. Oh yeah, that's the picture I was talking about. I think it always had to be, if anything, Whitney being the one like saying it's okay, you know. But Lungani X, do you think Robyn still has footage of Whitney since she was always behind the camera? Yeah, I literally imagine like Robyn having some sort of like shed in the backyard in her home in Jersey where she has like cataloged stuff of like all the footage she took on that little camcorder from back in the day. Because like I remember even in the Kevin Aquine documentary, there's like clips of Robyn like holding like a camcorder. I remember in that I think it was the Whitney This Is My Life special, there's footage of Robyn holding a camcorder. Like I feel like she has video footage, but she probably, I don't know if she'll ever release that. um Lungani X, are there any pictures of them together during the Bodyguard era? um there is a picture. I mean, it's not, you can't really even see Whitney here, but let me see here. Um, there's a picture. It's like it's right here. You can't even see Whitney, but that's Whitney and that's Robyn. And apparently this is Whitney singing "Happy Birthday" to Robyn on the set of The Bodyguard. Um, what sign, by the way, do you think Robyn is? Because I don't. Does anyone know her birthday? What is her sign? um. Poetry Soul, the way Robyn described first hearing Whitney at church was one of the most beautiful passages about Whitney that I've ever read. Was there any passage that made you feel like that? Yeah, I mean, like, gosh, I mean, like a lot of the first couple chapters are like just like a lot of that. I mean, yeah, the first time she hears her voice is probably like, it's very nice. There's a part where she talks about how like Whitney was always like very insecure with her like looks, and like the way Robyn would describe how she would try and make Whitney feel better by saying like, no, like your legs are like this and blah 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 blah. Like I thought that was just like really nice too. um yeah, I would say like honestly like the first couple chapters like really were just like, oh, this is so sweet, it's so nice, so sad. um let's see here. Vanity's Mirror, I wonder how Robyn's wife feels about this. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. I think, you know, honestly at this point, like Robyn's wife, interestingly enough, actually worked in some capacity on The Bodyguard. I think she was like one of like the PR people involved with the Bodyguard project. Um, but I think like, I mean, she knows like Whitney's always going to be a part of Robyn's life in some way, especially post this book coming out. So, um, let's see. Lungani X, because that's when the marriage to Bobby was still new. Jeanette Griffin, does Robyn mention the dedication notes of the albums towards Robyn? She does like one of them, like the first one she does. The Dreamer, December 17th is Robyn's birthday. Oh, December 17th. So does that make her a Sagittarius? Oh wow, she's a fire sign? Interesting. Jamia Leah, Robyn is a Gemini, I believe. Lungani X, I think she's an Aries, just said that from the top of my head. You should listen to a podcast Robyn did with Yes Girl, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, I already listened to that. I, like you guys, I've been like fairly good at like being on top of things. I listened to that and it was very good. You guys should listen to it if you haven't listened to it yet. Vanity's Mirror, while my birthday is December 18th, Jamia Leah, mine is December 19th. Haha, wow. You guys have some birthdays coming up. My birthday is actually August 11th. I'm a Leo too. My birthday's 2 days after Whitney's. So all right. Well, Vanity's Mirror, my mom is a Leo. Nice. Well, you know, Leos were the superior sign. Just saying. Just stating facts here. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Um, all right. Well, I mean, if you guys have anything else, I think I'm gonna wrap it up here, unless you have any other questions, any other excerpts you want me to read. I will read it while I'm here. Well, I think this might have been one of my longest streams. Donacia White, Robyn and Whitney story is so romantic. Lungani X, I love when she said when they'd listen to music, she'd sing the backing vocals and add her own ad libs. LOL, fellow Leo. Yes, Leo in the house. Yeah, another great thing I loved about this book too is Robyn, especially the early part of them getting to know each other. She talks a lot about how Whitney would make her listen to like certain songs, especially the songs that Sissy was singing backup to, and in a way it kind of feels like a soundtrack to the book, and she'll like pinpoint certain lyrics of a song, and she even does that throughout too with like certain Whitney songs. Like she'll pinpoint some like certain lyrics off of You Give Good Love, and in a way it kind of feels like a soundtrack to their story, and you're just like, oh, um Louis J. Hi, Queen. Lungani X. LOL, the longest stream you did was the Whitney stream, the bodyguard scarf, remember? Oh my god, yeah, that's right. Oh, that was so long ago. Really, was that my longest one? That was like 3.5 hours. God, my stamina. Well, this is over 2 hours now. 100, yeah, 34. How many hours, how many minutes is 3 hours? Oh wait, this is 3 hours already. This is already 3 hours. Oh shit, God. Poetry Soul. I was shocked to find out that Robyn lived with Whitney for as long as she did. 3 different places. Yes, same. See, I was too. Connie, married a Leo, love of my life. I know, right? Leos were just like really that sign. All right. Stefan, girl, my friend is meeting me for dinner and he's getting impatient. LOL. Lungani X, while it's already 3 hours. Okay, well, I'm gonna take that as my sign of I need to finish and end this now, because I truly could keep going, but yeah. Oh, Jamia, Leah, I'm like a new Whitney stan, so it's refreshing to hear all this from you guys. I learned a lot from this live, so thanks. Oh, Jamia, I would like as a new Whitney stan, I like highly recommend like go listen to some bootlegs, girl. Listen to any of the, well, I guess it depends like what era of Whitney you enjoy, but like go get your life in those bootlegs, girl. Actually, Adam Ulanovsky on YouTube, he has a lot of great Whitney bootlegs, and I highly recommend you listen to them, because he has bootlegs from like 86, 87, 88. They're all really, really good. So as a new stan, I'm pointing you that way, because I remember when I was becoming a stan, I was like, where do I go? What do I listen to? So that's the direction I'm pointing you in. Donicia White, please save this live. Of course, I never delete any of my lives. All my lives are literally saved. So yeah. All right. God, my shoulders hurt. My lord, I've been doing this for 3 hours. This went by so fast. Okay, well, if you guys have like again like any questions, like any topics concerning like this that you want to like talk about, you can always reach out to me on like Twitter and on Instagram. I'm always down to like talk about Whitney, or you could email me. So yeah, because I know like sometimes, when like you're a fan, especially of someone who isn't like here anymore, sometimes you're just like, oh, I feel so alone in my like love for this person. So if you ever like want to connect with a fellow Whitney fan, like I'm here, and you could follow me on like social. I'll leave my @ here. It's at INN_MHO. You could follow me there, and you could like DM me or whatever, any Whitney related stuff you want to talk about. And yeah. Lungani X, discovering and learning about Whitney is really nice. LOL, you'll find yourself spending hours and hours on YouTube. Honestly, like YouTube has done more for Whitney's legacy than her own estate has, and that's the frickin' tea. Stefan, this was wonderful. Steffi, thank you so much. Poetry Soul, thanks. Jamia, Leah, thank you. Wish you the best. Lungani X from interviews to performances. Jamia, Leah, yeah, I've been so caught up in her life recently. Yeah, well, welcome to the tunnel, girl. You're never getting out. So, all right. Well, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this stream. I hope this answered any questions you may have. If you were feeling iffy about the book, I hope this made you feel a bit more comfortable about what's in the book. Again, it's done like really, really respectfully. I think it honors Whitney in such a beautiful way. I honestly think I've never like heard anyone speak or write about Whitney with such like grace and dignity the way Robyn has. Like I truly like I don't. So can't recommend this book enough. Get it. If you're a fan, you should get it. And yeah, all right. Well, that's pretty much it. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.